seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Oi, oi! Or rather, because of the subject matter tonight, maybe a howdy y'all would be more appropriate given where we're going this evening. Welcome to the Bhoycie Bus. Yes, I'm the one that's talking first tonight. I'm in the driving seat. But as the saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The bus is a few minutes late. We wanted to make sure the show was perfect for you guys tonight. So, of course, I'm Phil, and I'm joined this week by this way. Russell Boyce is the passenger tonight. Russell, how the devil are you, mate?
Oh, mate, this is a show I'm looking forward to like you wouldn't believe. The effort you've went to, the lengths you went to, Phil, to make sure that this flows well. I don't know how we cram it into 2 hours, but we will do our very, very best. I've got a bag of cans with me, though, so we should be fine.
Oh, it should be okay. Yeah, we're on at 8 o'clock tonight in the event that we've got a bit of an overrun. Got a funny feeling there might be a wee bit. But yeah, we're taking a little break from all the Celtic chat. There will be some Celtic chat tonight. A little disclaimer for any of the younger fans who watch us. The word Celtic and 90s will go together at times tonight. But trust me, we're not Celtic dads. Celtic, it's not about, when it's a Celtic dadism, it's not about age. It's more of a mindset, a state of mind, if you will. But anyway, Russell, are you as excited as me? Because I am buzzing for this, mate. I've been waiting for this episode for ages because, man, you know how much the World Cup 94 means to me. And yeah, I'm really delighted to have you on board, mate, to do this with me, man. First of what hopefully will be many in this summer.
Aye, man. Mind, I think you suggested this for the bus 3 months ago. And I was like, put it on ice. Because the close season, we're going to need this shit. And that's what we decided to do. So hopefully we'll be able to do more of these, mate, over the summer. Because I think everyone appreciates, Phil, when there's no football, well, Celtic playing it, particularly when it's a Celtic pod, we've got to try and find creative ways, mate, to keep everyone engaged, keep the bus rolling, keep folk having stuff to do through the week as well, because I know the bus, I think, means a lot to folk, mate, now. We're quite humble about the amount of viewers we've got. We're happy with the numbers. I think they've blown our minds, in fact, to be honest. Happy is an understatement. So I think it's good that whilst the close season's on, and we're not just kidding on, we're going to talk about, every single link player to Celtic all summer. I think it's good to have a wee bit of variety, mate, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, mate, it's going to be a good one. But as I am the host tonight, I am contractually obligated to do all the mandatory stuff. So first things first is get yourself over to Fanboy Football. The logo is above my head there. How many days have they got left, Russell, to pick up a Bhoycie Bus t-shirt before they...
6 days!
Think of it, guys. See if you pick one up. It'll be like a treasured artifact. You'll have one, and then as of 6 days, you can't get one, so think it that way. Oh, well, there you go, Russell. I'm kind of encouraging people to sell things on eBay. Don't sell on eBay. Don't do it. And also, if you could like, share, comment, and subscribe, do all the good stuff because it helps the channel out. Because YouTube loves channels with a bit of interaction. So yeah, if you give it a like, we comment down the bottom, interact with us in chat. We want to hear all of your takes on the '94 World Cup if you remember it tonight. Because this is just a nostalgia trip. It's a Bustalgia trip. Because hey, we're all in this together, guys. And yeah, and share it. Share it with your friends, your family, whatever. If your neighbours, even if they're Rangers fans, go and share it with them as well. Why not? Spread the word of the Bhoycie Bus. We welcome everyone on board. But yeah, Russell, we will get right into it. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to just copy something I've done from the very first time I appeared on the show. You know that I love a bit of trivia. I'm going to throw some trivia out there and we'll come back to the answers at the end. Don't worry. This one is not as hard as last week's Double Down, which we will not speak about ever again. We will not speak about it. So tonight's trivia question, and we'll come back to at the end of the show with the answers, is there are 3 players who have won the World Cup and the European Cup or Champions League as a captain? Can you name the 3 players? But we'll come back to that at the end of the show.
Good, I like that.
So there you go. That's the wee trivia question to get the comments and to make you think, and we'll come back to it. So anyway, World Cup 94. First things first, is why is this tournament very, very important to you and I? Why did we decide that this was the starting point for this series?
It's a starting point of football for me, if I'm completely honest. I'd watched bits and bobs of Celtic. I always had a ball. The way I was playing football for the age of 3, never got as good as I probably should have, to be honest. But this is the tournament. This is it when, like when the penny drop sort of moment, if you will, or the cent in the case of USA 94. The cent dropped me, and it was like this became. I was 6 years old. I remember. I did a wee bit of research, obviously, for the show, mate. But the funny thing is, for only being 6 years old, the amount of flooding back memories that came to me of watching it at the time, man. And I think the beauty of this tournament was there were so many iconic players that became more iconic in the future, and yet it was our first introduction to legends of before our time as well. It's a perfect blend. I think the fact it was in America was unusual as well. When I think back of watching it on the telly, it was like the fuzziness, even on like BBC watching it on, like it was a sort of, it was strange, none of the pictures are full, like, obviously it wasn't high definition then, but you know what I mean. It was a different vibe, man. And of course, I think as well, it'll always be synonymous because Scotland haven't obviously qualified for a World Cup other than 98. In all my football supporting life since, England have been at a World Cup. So you've always had a team to cheer on. I don't mean them. I mean the team they're playing. And yet, at this tournament, of course, there was no Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, but there was the Republic. So, very interesting aspect of it as well, that we've never had that since. Yeah, iconic tournament. It's what gave me the drug of football, mate. And it's still the best thing to have happened to me was falling in love with the game, watching this tournament.
I'm the exact same boat as you. I'm a tad older than you. I was 8 years old, about to turn 9. And I'd always been aware of football. My dad took me to a Celtic game in 1991. That was my first ever game, but it pure bypassed me. It was a game between Celtic and Falkirk in the deep, dark 90s in Celtic. It was the first one of the night. But the whole experience bypassed me. I was only like 6 years old at the time, never really appreciated it. But this World Cup, games on late at night, live from the USA, it was an absolute phenomenon. And it got me the bug. And after that was me off to the races. I just wanted to consume anything football. Tonight I am wearing a Napoli 1987 shirt, and if you know who this is synonymous with, we're going to be talking about a certain player tonight that is immortalised by this shirt, so he would definitely be featuring. He had a eventful tournament, to say the least. But you had shows in the 90s like Football Italia, which is iconic. I'm sure you watched that, Russell. on Channel 4.
Go Lazio!
Of course.
Oh, loved it, man.
Of course, mate. You know, and then I was collecting like Panini stickers, everything, shows like Soccer AM. It's just like any football I could get. I was just a sponge for it after that. So not only did I love talking about Celtic, I've just talked about football all night quite happily. So that's why I'm delighted for this to go in a wee bit of a different direction tonight and just reminisce about the glory days. And of course, another reason why we're doing this as well is we have entered the summer months, and this one blew my mind, Russell. Do you know what year Qatar were awarded the World Cup? Like what year the name came out of the envelope officially? Do you know?
Let's throw a guess.
Go for
2013.
Oh, you're not too far. 2010. That blew my mind. I was like, was it that long ago? Because here we are, 12 years on from the Qatar World Cup getting announced. In that time, Sepp Blatter has been arrested. Michel Platini's been arrested. The FBI have found all sorts of corruption across FIFA about, you know, taking bungs for, like, you know, awarding tournaments. Yet still, here we are in 2022, and the Qatar World Cup is still going ahead, and it's going to be in the winter. I'm sure it will still be good because it's the World Cup. It's a big phenomenon, but it'll be a massive spectacle. But it's going to be weird watching it in the middle of our domestic football season when everything's going to stop. It's going to be a wee bit crazy. But yeah, when I looked up that, I was like, so we've now got a summer with no football, no World Cup. So we need to fill it some way, and this is it. We're going to do it. We're going to just go back, do all sorts of different tournaments, Euros, World Cups. Yeah, so let's get started. So first thing before we get into the depths of the tournament, and also I'll just make clear, we're not going to go through every single game of the tournament. That would just be a bit boring sitting here going, so in game number 1, this happened. We're not going to do that. We've got a few major talking points. We're going to jump around a wee bit. But before we get into that, we're going to take us back to 1994, to what was going on in the world with all different things. So first things first is, since this is a football show, we're going to talk about World Cup, Russell, I've got some winners of major honours in the year of 1994 to see where the world of football was. And see, when I look at the list, and if you told me this was 94 and you put a list of 2022 next to each other, I'd be like, it's no too dissimilar, to be honest. The two glaring ones, obviously we start with England. We'll start with England and Scotland. Man United and Rangers won both leagues there. It blows my mind that other children out there that don't know that Man United were once like a powerhouse in English football, because in the 90s they won. I think there's kids who are like on, you know, football Twitter who are like, you know, 14 years old and stuff, and they don't know that Man U absolutely scooped things up.
See, to be fair on that one, man, right? See, when you think about it, I think that's a bit like what Liverpool was for us in the 90s.
That's a good point, actually, yeah. Because how long did it take Liverpool to win the league? 30 years, really?
They've won once since I've been watching football. And yet, you know, deep down when you think about it, their, you know, golden era wasn't shy and just finishing, basically, once we're now in this year, like the era we're discussing tonight. So I think that's quite interesting, eh?
It's weird. Football does go in cycles at times, and of course, the other team that won the league in Scotland, it goes in cycles, definitely. We won't talk about how Celtic done that season. We won't even visit that one. We'll just skip over that. So in Italy, AC Milan won the Serie A. In Spain, it was Barcelona. In Germany, of course, it was Bayern Munich. They always win the league. In France, PSG won it, but that was the year that Marseille got caught with a match fixing and got relegated, get kicked out of the league. Then we had in Holland, Ajax won the league, and in Portugal, it was Benfica. So as I say, if you put 1994 and 2022 side by side, you'd be like, it's not too different, is it really? You look at all of the major winners in the European leagues. Now, as for the 3 big European tournaments, Champions League that final that year, AC Milan 4, Barcelona 0. Fabio Capello's AC Milan against Johan Cruyff's Barcelona. 4-0, they pulled their pants down and absolutely spanked them.
Now, if you'd said those two managers, right, and one of them wins 4-0 against the other, you're picking it to be Cruyff's.
Yeah.
Like, say you didn't know the score, you picked Johan Cruyff's team would do that to a Fabio Capello team. So that's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but I can remember, I've seen the highlights of this one, and it's like, I remember Desailly has a big, he scores the 4th goal, just marauding right through the middle and just bends it round the keeper. And then we've got the UEFA Cup, which is now known as the Europa League, was also won by a team from Italy. In fact, another team from Milan. Inter Milan beat a team that's now extinct, Austria Salzburg, who are now known as Red Bull Salzburg. They beat them 2-0 over 2 legs, because the UEFA Cup final used to be a 2-legged affair. So, and then we had the Cup Winners' Cup. Do you remember the Cup Winners' Cup final that year? Who won that one?
No, man.
Arsenal beat Parma. Do you remember how good Parma were in the 1990s?
Oh, aye. Oh,
yeah.
They went on and won the UEFA Cup in 97, was it? 98?
Yeah, they won.
Was it 99? 97, 98, 99. I mean, I might as well
Should
just
be around there.
Shout every other year in the 90s, boys. Do you know what I mean?
And then there was Lazio as well. They were another great team in the 90s now, because Italian football was the place to be in the 90s.
Yep.
Like nowadays, it's like, you know, it's sort of middle of the road. But yeah, like in the 90s, it was the place to be. Nowadays, like obviously the Premier League is deemed to be, well, by many, the best league in the world. But see, in the 1990s, the Italian league was surreal how good it was. And yeah, Parma were sensational in the 90s. In fact, I can remember a friendly I went to between Celtic and Parma at Celtic Park in 97, just before the Wim Jansen season started. And I've said this many times when people have asked me who's like the best player you've seen come and play at Celtic Park against them. And I always say, do you know who was a great one? Lillian Thuram. Because at that point in time, I'd never seen like an overlapping fullback. And this guy was just belting it up the wing. He's a right back, and he's just getting forward all the time, finding loads of space, getting great balls into the box. And it was like, I've never seen a player like this in my life. So Lillian Thuram always rates. I always remember that about that friendly with Parma.
That's interesting. That is interesting. There was two
Aye.
names that came up. I mean, I can see the two Swedish names, but
Thomas Brolin.
Asprilla.
Tino Asprilla ended up at Newcastle. He did, yes.
I think he's still synonymous with them not winning that league, you know.
He was a bit of a temperamental one, wasn't he?
He just wasn't the right fit for that team. That team was the team. That Newcastle side was like a team of honesty.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think it was one signing too far. Signing too far. It was sprinkling like, you know, hundreds and thousands on something that didn't need it. The ice cream was good enough on its own. Newcastle would have won that league, man, if they hadn't signed him. And then, of course, Patrick McLaughlin.
Buffon.
I mean, see if you told me Buffon had been on the bench or something for Italy in the World Cup final, nobody would have been surprised, Phil, you know. He's been around forever.
He signed a new deal with Parma the end of the season there, and he'll if he sees it out, he'll be 46 years old when it finishes. The guy just isn't stopping, mate. He doesn't stop, mate. Like Celtic and under Ange, mate, he doesn't stop. Just keeps on going. Thuram, Cannavaro, Buffon. They had Crespo as well. Veron. Parma were an amazing team. Phenomenal. And then, it got so bad for them. They had to, like, what was it? Pawn the UEFA Cups or something like that. It got so bad for them that they were that flat broke. Yeah, crippling times. And a couple other wee football things I've got. The Ballon d'Or winner in 1993, because they hand out in December every year. So who was the Ballon d'Or holder going into the World Cup? Russell, do you know?
No, man. I would guess Romario. I don't know, though.
Roberto Baggio was the World Player of the Year, who I'll definitely be talking about at some point tonight. And the winner of the Ballon d'Or in 94 coming out of this World Cup was a bit of a surprise. Well, he's a good player, but he is most definitely the only person from this country to ever win it. It's Hristo Stoichkov, Bulgarian striker for Barcelona.
He was
absolutely great player, but definitely the only Bulgarian that's ever won the Ballon d'Or. But yeah, that was just a wee wrap-up of where football was in 1994 heading into this World Cup. So we'll look at some other sports, Russell. We've got a few headlines that we want to just go through, like a few other sports, because, we all love football. That's why we're all here. But, there's other interests as well outside of that. So, big story from the world of motor racing that year is just the month before, the Brazilian driver Ayrton Senna, three-time world champion, was killed at the San Marino Grand Prix when he crashed. Right. It was in May 94, so it was just before this World Cup. Which was an absolute shock to the F1 community and just race community in general. And Michael Schumacher then went on to win his first of 7 world titles that season, in quite controversial fashion as well, to say the least. I mean, if social media was around back then, I'd imagine Schumacher would be pretty hated back then, because he would go to some dark places to make sure he got the job done. In terms
Give us an example.
How he won that race was, or how he won the title was, it came down to the last race. Damon Hill had been promoted to the number 1 Williams driver after Ayrton Senna's death. So Damon Hill was basically fighting for the title with him on the last race. It was the Australian Grand Prix, and Schumacher crashed his car, or he clipped the barrier, kept it going, but as he was back on the road, Damon Hill came up the outside of him, tried to overtake him, and Schumacher just went right into the side of him. And Schumacher retired, but he did enough damage to Damon Hill's car that Damon Hill had to retire,
as well.
and he had to, well, that meant he wouldn't win the title. And then a few years later, he tried to do the same thing to Jacques Villeneuve at the European Grand Prix in the last race of the season, and it backfired on him because Villeneuve finished the race and won the title while Schumacher was out.
I forgot about that name.
Jacques Villeneuve, 1997 that was. But yeah, Schumacher, he was a great driver, but he was a bit controversial at times. He wasn't afraid to stoop to lower, just to make sure he got the job done. In terms of some other sports, well, we're going to be talking about America tonight. The biggest sport in America, American football. Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl that year. They defeated the Buffalo Bills, who got the unflattering record of losing their 4th Super Bowl in a row by losing to the Dallas Cowboys that year. No team has ever achieved that since, and I don't think any team wants to achieve that 4 times in a row. Now, Russell, I know you're a big boxing fan, mate. A huge boxing fan.
Aye, George Foreman, man.
It was, mate. Yeah, 45-year-old, mate.
Bit of context to that would be, well, not is context the right word, but a bit of a relatable example you could give to that. And there's been gossip about it of the past week. I don't know if you've seen this.
All right.
That Vladimir Klitschko, right before the trouble started in Ukraine, with Russia and all that, but Klitschko was training at 45 years old.
Right.
And had actually done a video, which he's not released yet, but it was him training, and he's basically saying into the camera, "One more dance" to Tyson Fury. Which, of course, if he were to do the Foreman, it would put them on a sort of par. So it's good for that, because sometimes I think when you look back at, you hear stuff like, George Foreman won at 45, it must have been shite back then, and it's like, no, it doesn't quite work like that, Yeah. It's just that's your memory, or if you've not got a memory of the time, that, don't get too drawn into the ages. Foreman was still a quality. Quality boxer. You could just walk through punches, mate. You could walk through them. I've never known anyone to flinch so little whilst getting banjoed in the temple by a fellow heavyweight boxer. And there's so many fights he did where you thought, wow, he's not doing much here, but whilst he's getting hit, they're not really having much of an effect either. But him at 45, we could have ended up with a scenario where Vladimir Klitschko was battling to do the same thing, Phil, in the modern era.
Should have been Dr. Steelhammer. That would have been good to see. Because right now he's too busy battering Russian troops over in the Ukraine. I wouldn't fancy coming up against him, to be honest. No. Him and his brother, both of them are on the front line. Fair play to them. But you're saying about people think maybe a bit of rubbish back then. So just for context, the boxer that he beat was a guy named Michael Moorer, who had defeated to win the title Evander Holyfield. So I wouldn't say he was any mug, to be honest, if he beat Evander Holyfield in April 1994. And George Foreman finished up 94 as a world champion, say 45 years old. But nowadays, he's more famous for his lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine. Does he still do that? I mean, is that still a thing? I don't know.
I use it for toasties, mate. Never use it really for meat. But
it's like air fryers and ninja foodies seem to be the thing nowadays. It's like lean.
That's right.
Grilling machines seem out the door. So around about the time of the World Cup as well, we'll always get the Wimbledon tennis tournament, and this was the year that Pete Sampras defeated Goran Ivanisevic to win the men's title. Now, Ivanisevic would go on to win the title in a few years' time. Was it 2001?
Yes.
Yeah, but you found out a good fact about Goran Ivanisevic that's football related, didn't you, Russell, the other day?
Well, I didn't find it out. Bizarrely, I remember it, Phil, from at the time. Now, Ivanisevic is weird because I was obsessed with sport growing up, right? I played loads of different sports. I played tennis a bit. I played squash, you'd be surprised. But I watched Wimbledon in particular, right, religiously each year. Would I remember the 94 final? Probably not that well. But from then on, Ivanisevic become my favourite player. For whatever reason. I like the fact he was Sergio Tacchini. I like the fact he was left-handed, because so was I. I like the fact he was a bit of a Raj. I like the fact that he was different for the rest of tennis, Yep. Sampras was boring me to death, if I'm completely honest to you. Tim Henman was a boring British guy to play. Rosetsky had the fastest serve on earth, and yet was dull as anything as well. Even Ivanisevic, I felt, kept it lively. He goes on to win Wimbledon in 2001.
2001.
Ivanisevic, as a wild card.
Wild card, yeah.
He was given the wild card because he'd previously been in a final. I don't think he'd played the 12 months leading up to that on the tour almost at all. Because he was focusing his careers elsewhere, Phil. He wanted to become a professional footballer. And after winning the 2001 Wimbledon, which is the Holy Grail, particularly if you've lost a final 7 years before that, do you know what I mean? It meant so much more. He was 30 at the time as well, which, again, just shows you how sport moves on. We were talking about boxing there, which maybe age-wise, it's more incredible that Foreman won the heavyweight title at 45 than it would be if a Klitschko in 2022 would at 45. But and even Ivanisevic winning the men's title when he was 30, I'm pretty sure he was one of, if not the oldest Wimbledon, certainly first-time champion anyway. But he then goes on, after the Wimbledon, you're thinking, well, that must be him getting a ranking again, and he's going to compete at the next major. You know, I think the next one after that's the Australian Open in the January, is it? I think so. Or the US Open, in fact, before that. Anyway, you're thinking, like, what's going to happen next? He's back on top. And incredibly, he signs a 6-month term at Hajduk Split.
Hajduk Split?
As a footballer. Now,
Wow.
this is nae mugs. This isn't like he's signing for 3rd division part-time equivalent to Stirling Albion in Croatia. Ivanisevic, Wimbledon champion, is joining one of Croatia's big guns.
Yeah.
I don't know if he actually ever made it on the park. They probably gave him a game at some point. But I think it was a short-lived career. But aye, mental, eh?
That is, man, as you say, it's no a wee sort of token gesture. Oh yeah, you can sign for an amateur team, we'll give them a run out. Hajduk Split along with like Dynamo Zagreb or one of the top teams in Croatia. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he did get any like 4 points. Funny enough, that might be coming up, Chris Kerr. Something might be coming up about that in the near future.
Oh, right. Cool.
Yep. I maybe mention something along the lines about Hulk Hogan. But yeah, just another wee quick one as well, because I know that you're also a snooker fan, and you always talk about the whole recency bias. People go about Ronnie O'Sullivan, 7-time world champion. He's finally equals Stephen Hendry. Well, in this year, Stephen Hendry won his 4th out of 7 titles, defeating Jimmy White in the Snooker World Championship final. Do you remember that one, Russell? Because I see you're a big snooker fan.
Just quickly, Patrick is correcting me. There was 2002. I think you're right. He was 30 anyway. And Ivanisevic, just because you know I like my dates of birth, years of birth.
Oh, yeah.
You know I've not got the Google. I'm going to tell you now. Ivanisevic, 1971. I am pretty sure I am right. Someone can check that for me, but I'm sure. Jimmy White, though, Hendry. I mean, Jimmy White at the time I despised just because I was backing the Scottish guy. But again, as it was with every other sport, mate, particularly, you know, Wimbledon was, you focused on tennis, World Championship, you focused on snooker. I got really invested. And snooker's now in my top 3 sports, 100%. And it is a sport, not a game. And Hendry at that point is the 17-all. Was it 17, or was it 17-all? 17-16, Jimmy White? And anyway, it finishes 18-17. Hendry wins it by a solitary frame.
Yep.
But the miss that Jimmy White does is utterly incredible. But at the same time, I just think shows the human side to people.
Yeah.
You can have all the ability in the world. Jimmy White could pot that black. Genuinely, if you paid him enough money with his eyes shut. And I mean literally could probably look at you and pot that shot. The black's off the spot. But pressure's a real thing. And this is maybe, Phil, where I get fucked off with statos. I don't know you. But you know when people literally just watch football through a calculator, mate? And they just want to hit you. They just want to hit you with stats. They're not watching the game. And see, the one thing about stats never take into consideration is pressure. The context of the situation at the time. You know, where a league championship race could be or what stage it is in a cup final. They just go, 1 shot, 1 goal. And it's like, or whatever it may be, 4 shots, he didn't score. And you're like, yeah, I know, but he came on as a sub in the last 10 minutes in the European Cup final. And he was taking a shot for anywhere he could. You know, and I just think that's that example of Jimmy White, an all-time great at his sport. And yet, that ball off the black couldn't go in because he was playing against the king. The king of the crucible, and his presence, whatever you want to call it. Yes, there was pressure on Jimmy White because it's a world final, but he also played the opponent eventually, and he played the opponent, mate, and that's the difference. See, the best, Hendry never played his opponent until he got older and he became pals with them. But before that, see, at that stage in the 90s, Stephen Hendry was whisked back up to Stirling, where I'm from. You know, the snooker hall, I went to award ceremonies there and stuff. Like, that's where he practiced. But he was back up that road that night. He didn't mingle with his opponents, right? And I think at that point, it was a very clever move. See, if you actually look at how quickly Hendry won the 7 titles. See, during that period, Ronnie, in my opinion, has never been as good as what Hendry was in that short contained period. Ronnie only equalled Hendry. I'm not taking anything away for Ronnie O'Sullivan here, by the way. I fucking love him. The guy walks out to Rock and Roll Star by Oasis, which is a good tie-in.
Oh, yes.
But he only equalled 36 ranking titles, mate, like 2 years ago. Hendry done 36 ranking titles, and it was in such a small period of time and with a lot less ranking tournaments on the calendar at the time. And I think people forget that as well. So I feel Jimmy White missed it because a lot of it was, it's looming on me who I'm playing. Yes, the World Cup, with the World Final comes with its own pressure. It's a black off the spot, and I think Hendry loomed large because see if you let him in, you let him in the balls, he wins. He wins, mate. That's what he does. I'm not talking for previous experience.
We're just talking balls tonight, mate. Oh man, but no, it's I say snooker. I've caught it here and there. I mean, I've seen the famous Dennis Taylor Steve Davis final from the 80s, the one that goes forever, and it's like nobody wants to win it. I've always seen the footage of that one. But yeah, I remember in the 90s, like, even though I'm not a massive snooker fan, I can remember how big a deal Stephen Hendry was and how quickly he got to the 7 world titles. He was at 10 years.
Superstar, mate.
He done it in.
He's Tiger Woods, mate.
Yeah. And did he not retire like soon after that? Was he
No, so he carried on. He carried on. It was incredible what he did. So in 2012, he hits a 147 again at the World Championships.
2012, jeez, wow, okay.
So he was 42, 43 because he was born in 1969. That's how
of course, yep.
Right, so same year as Triple H, and Paul Lambert, and he hits a 147 against Bingham, and then I'm sure he gets through that. So yeah, the 147, he's done it again, and for once he showed a bit. You know, he's kind of ice cold, Hendry. Showed a wee bit of like, come on. Like, after he got his 147, you could see he was a bit pumped. And he then goes out in the next round and then announces his retirement for snooker at 43. Ronnie O'Sullivan just won his 7th title, approaching his 47th birthday. Right? Now, the thing is, as I say, with Hendry, though, in the last decade of his career, didn't win a world. He kind of, his form fell off a cliff. And I think a lot of that was to do with he lost his facade, and his facade was no one knew anything about him. Peter Ebdon called him the Great White Shark. He goes, just let him in. He goes, he's just ruthless. He's just, all he wants to do is win. There's a very good interview with Hendry talking about it, where he says, I was put on this planet to win world titles. That was only a couple of years ago. He did it with the guy, the host for BT Sport, that Jake Humphries. It was very good. But, yeah, he retires, 10 years later, but for 10 years he'd been meh. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think at that point in time in 94, you were watching a superstar of sport. The standard, you need to remember, he was up against hasn't changed all that much. Right? So these guys are just younger and better probably than what they are now, and yet they still dominate the sport to this day. So that gives you an insight of how good he was then.
Some people are just born with it, just for like a natural ability, whatever sport it may be. Some people have just got a knack for it, and even if you don't even like sport, you still got to respect it. When you see somebody do something like, because snooker is a bloody difficult sport to play. It really is. It's not a game of pool down the pub, guys. It's snooker is. You've got to be thinking, was it 2-3 shots ahead at least every time? Yeah, it's not for the fair that one. It's not an easy one to play. And we'll just quickly round up a couple more last things just on the other sports, what's going on. The big tournament in golf every year is the US Masters at Augusta, which gets played just before the World Cup. It's usually April every year. Jose Maria Olazabal won that year. And just because I'm a wrestling fan, and I know it's not a sport. Before somebody goes, wrestling's not a sport. I know. It's all part of pop culture, though. In 1994, in the World Wrestling Federation, Bret the Hitman, Don't Call Me Joe Hart, he was the world champion there. And over in WCW, Ric Flair was the champion. But just before the World Cup started, WCW signed a guy by the name of Hulk Hogan, who would then go and reinvent himself in the next couple of years and start the New World Order faction. And it would be a pop culture phenomenon because wrestling exploded in the late 90s. You see me on this show quite a lot. I've always got NWO merch on. I love all that time in wrestling. But yeah, Hulk Hogan had literally just jumped to WCW at this point in time. And it would just, say, the business would go absolutely haywire in the next couple of years. But at that point in time, 94, it's not a year to go back and watch fondly, to be fair. It's not great. But anyway, moving on from entertainment world to wrestling, we'll talk about movies really quickly because there's a really funny link in this one. I couldn't believe this when I went and looked at what was number one at the box office in 1994. If you wanted to go, let's say you didn't want to watch the football, you wanted to go to the cinema that night, why would you? But anyway, if you wanted to go in June 94 to the cinema, there were two big films that month. One of them was Disney's The Lion King, which is an absolute classic. Everyone loves The Lion King. And the other one that was number one at the box office that month was Speed, a film about a bus that cannot slow down. What are the chances, Russell, that would be Speed?
Like, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
The first show we do on this format and fucking... Aye, that is just... mental.
A bus that can't slow down. Forrest Gump, yep. Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, and Forrest Gump were also the three big films that were released during the year. But as I say, specifically at the time of the World Cup, Speed, I say a bus that can't slow down. What are the chances? What are the actual chances that we pick that?
It's all tied in, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. So, here's something I know you really want to talk about, Russell. So let's get on to it. Music in 1994. So, right away, I was like, right, okay, well, let's find out what was number one in the chart. And I knew before I even looked this up, I knew it was going to be number one. It, of course, was from the film 4 Wednesdays in a Funeral. Love Is All Around by Wet, Wet, Wet. It was number one for basically ever in 1994. How many weeks? 18 weeks? 16 weeks? Was it the Bryan Adams song from 2 years before is the record holder?
91 Bryan Adams, right? Okay. So that gets like 21 weeks or something. Mm-hmm. But Wet, Wet, Wet is like the Speed bus. Do you know what I mean? It's not showing any signs of slowing down. Wet, Wet, Wet's cover of Love Is All Around is number one. I think it got to 16 weeks. Mm-hmm. And the incredible thing, I remember telling you this on the phone, Phil. You couldn't believe it.
I couldn't.
They pulled their own single for number one. Wet, Wet, Wet.
What?
Guys with Clyde Bank that had previous like smack addiction and stuff. Literally, like, this is the holy grail. We're number one, 16 weeks. Just let it roll and you let the pennies keep coming in. Because you're making a wee bit less of money when obviously the songwriting royalties are going elsewhere. Incredibly, they got that sick of it. They pulled their own number one single from the charts whilst at number one. Now, they were definitely in... Can I help? That's the dog snoring in the background.
The dog's not a Wet, Wet, Wet fan?
No. She's bowled out as well. Just as bold as Wet, 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 where I think of it being number one. I mean, I find that incredibly rock and roll in a way, Phil. To pull your own track whilst it's number one. Unbelievable. And fair play to them for doing it. I mean, they were obviously that sick of hearing it themselves. They made the big call. Stubbsy Sauce says they pulled it because we were all saying please, please, please. I mean, it is wild, though. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it's been done since, has it? No.
I can't think of any act that would ever, in their right mind, pull their own track for being number one. Particularly when you're that close to get the record and see if you're even considering pulling it. You would go, shall we see if it gets the record? And then if it drops to number 2, number 3, whatever, we'll pull it then. See, just to do it whilst it's at number one. I kind of admire that. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. They're willingly, take them to basically stopping themselves getting royalties. But yeah, to this day, it still gets airplay on different radio stations. I'm sure they're still making a wee pretty penny here and there from it. Definitely will be. But yeah, on to albums, because there are 2 landmark albums that were released this year. Now, Britpop hasn't quite kicked into full swing yet. At some point, I imagine in this series, we will cover Euro 96. And my God, Britpop was at its absolute peak in 1996. But 94 is starting to bubble a wee bit. We've had a few years of American rock music sort of dominating the early 90s. But two landmark albums were released in the Britpop era that would sort of kick it off was Park Life by Blether and Definitely Maybe by Oasis. And I don't know about you, Russell, because you and I are both massive Oasis fans. I know that. Is Definitely Maybe your favourite album of Oasis?
No. What's the Story is my favourite. Just because
okay.
I was a wee bit older when What's the Story came out. Not like old, but those songs connected with me more.
Yeah.
But Definitely Maybe. I mean, I think with Definitely Maybe, right? Like, I think the Britpop thing fucks Oasis off. Because they don't consider themselves Britpop and never were. As far as they're concerned, the rest of them are Britpop. They were making albums that were going to stand the test of time. Whilst the rest all get put in that wee category of Britpop. i.e. that Park Life album, things like Pulp and stuff, and Supergrass, and loads of bands in that era, Elastica and stuff. Like, they'll all go in their own wee pigeonhole together. I think Definitely Maybe, well, you know, it was the fastest selling debut album of all time. It was
great album.
Just an album that brought you anthems that were album tracks. I mean, you know, I look at two of the best Oasis songs ever being Rock and Roll Star and Slide Away.
Yep, I knew you were going to see Slide Away. So good.
It's so good. Like, neither of them were singles. What? Like, that's insane.
Aye. And Liam's voice at that point as well, because he's so young and it's not all gravelly at that point. Some of the notes he hits, spectacular album. Yeah. But yeah, I was the same as you. See, when I was a youngster, right? Again, like, What's the Story, Morning Glory connected to me originally, but it's one of these ones as I've got older and listening Definitely Maybe more, I've went, oh man, this album's fucking tremendous. Yeah, we will get on it. Don't worry. And if we have to go a wee bit longer, we will. We'll be as long as it takes. But yeah, a phenomenal album. But yeah, I bought Definitely Maybe a couple of years after that as I started to get a bit older. But yeah, it's over time, it's definitely moved up to being the sort of my favourite album. It's a bit like, because I'm also a big Beatles fan, right? And to me, if I was to draw like there's plenty of comparisons between Oasis and the Beatles. Some of them intentional, some of it unintentional from the band. It just depends. But if What's the Story, Morning Glory is Oasis's Sgt. Pepper's, I would say that Definitely Maybe is like Revolver, where it's a really strong album, and some people, because it came out just before Sgt. Pepper's, Revolver was just before Sgt. Pepper's, but Revolver's a phenomenal album for the Beatles, so I always kind of look at it as that's their Revolver, essentially, to What's the Story, Morning Glory being Sgt. Pepper's. It's but both great albums. But then after that, say Be Here Now, there's some good tracks on that, but then it starts to kind of start to go a bit downhill. But the peak, man, they were something else. And they'd only just made their TV debut just the month before this on a show called The Word, hosted by Mark Lamar. They sang Supersonic.
The Word, yes.
The Word on Channel 4, yes, with Mark Lamar. Yeah, that was where they made their TV debut in May 1994. I only know that because I watched Supersonic, the Oasis movie on Netflix, and that gets featured at one point when they make their big TV debut. Yeah.
It does, and it's on it. There's another brilliant documentary about the rise and fall of Britpop. It's called Live Forever, and then it's called The Rise and Fall of Britpop. It's fucking phenomenal. It came out in 2002, 2003. It's a phenomenal documentary. I advise anyone to find that. It's brilliant. It just captures what the 90s were all about. And you know, there's a wee bit of regret in my mind, like, that I was there, and I was probably taking it all in a wee bit, but it would have been nice to have been... you know, 5-6 years older, like in my 15, 16 years old. I would have loved that during this era, Phil.
Yeah. As I know a bit in Live Forever, where one of the Gallagher brothers is sat on like a throne as he's doing his sort of talking to the camera a bit, when he's giving a sort of commentary. I'm sure like Liam, I can't remember if it was Liam or Noel, are basically sitting on a throne. I'd imagine if we know, I would take a guess it's probably him, but it's honestly like a throne he's sitting on in his house.
It is Noel. It's Noel. The big throne, the big high back chair.
And then in contrast, it cuts to Jarvis Cocker, who's sitting in like a wee dingy bed set. It is like, wow, what a contrast that is.
Oh, I know.
But
I think that was all staged, wasn't it? Though? I reckon Jarvis Cocker's, he's at it at that point. You know, poor little Jarvis and all that.
But we'll quickly move on to the major news headlines from that year, just in general. So one of them came up there about the O.J. Simpson car chase. Yeah. That was... That was insane. Like, that played out live on television where he's lying down in the back seat while his friend's driving. It was a Ford white Bronco, and there's like loads of police cars chasing him down like the motorway. And there's O.J. Simpson trial. It's probably the biggest news story in '94. Yeah, huge. And of course, he got away with it, which was to this day still very, very controversial. Hi, Alfred.
Yeah, totally. Totally, man. Like, man, I don't know much about it, to be honest. I mean, but I know it was like, obviously it led to the trial and all that shit. You know what I mean? Like, he was, but he was like stuff like that. You just don't. I don't know. You just don't get stories like that anymore. Phil, they're all too straight-laced these days. I'm not condoning O.J. Simpson and his trials and travails. But what I would say is, you know, I was watching TalkSport today. I know I've told you it's my guilty pleasure, and I like that Jim White and Simon Jordan show, but they were, you know, they spent like half an hour analysing, because Jack Grealish had like a wee pop at the Newcastle player Maradona or something, whatever his name is, and like all he'd said was like, oh, it was as bad as him. Like, nothing really. I mean, you should have been there in 1994. You know what I mean? They were turning, like, you know, it was wild then, man. It was the wild, wild west. What guys are getting up to. Stevie Coulthard comes in as well, and he's saying World Cup '94.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to get to it.
We are. It's like the show's kind of in two halves. It'll be like the first hour essentially will be this sort of where was the world, and then we'll be talking all about the football once we're through that. So we're almost there. But another big story, and it's slightly going back to music again, was Kurt Cobain's death in 1994. Now, Russell, I'm not sure about yourself. I get a feeling are you into American rock at all? How do you feel about Nirvana and grunge rock and stuff like that? What's your opinions on it?
It's all right, man.
It's all right.
I don't mind. Like, I think as I've got older, I've respected it more than what I did.
Yeah.
At high school. High school frustrated me with American culture creeping in all the time. If I'm honest, like, and it's not about like be yourself, of course, but like some of my mates and that, like, they went on and got apprenticeships at FES and that, do you know what I mean? Like, they were in Stone Island by the time they're 17. But, like, when they were 13, 14, they wouldn't hear it when I was like, go take that nail varnish off, mate, and take that chain off. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're fucking embarrassing yourself. And they'd be like, no, this is who I am, man. And I'd be like, no.
That's
like,
not who you are. Come on.
Aye, and I think that culture, like, at times creeps in too much. Like, I'm like, it's great having different tastes in music and stuff, but sometimes I think, like, the American culture is a bit false. So letting that come into your day-to-day life when you're at high school and that is a wee bit silly, because that's never going to be who you go on to be. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I'm like, you know, not that I'm ever going to, you know, end up being David Bowie, do you know what I mean? I suppose when I look at it that way. But, you know, I think, like, there's more realness with sometimes, like, our more local sort of, like, cultural stars or pop stars, footballers, stuff like that, where I think, like, sometimes, you know, cutting about with like the baggy jeans and, you know, cutting holes in your ear and that, I'm like, come on, mate, like that's not gonna last for long, is it?
No, definitely not. And I just read the comment on the screen. Juice Master Gaming is indeed correct. WWF did unashamedly use the footage from the O.J. Simpson chase during a match in 1996, and I can remember Jerry Law on commentary saying things like, "Hey, this looks really familiar." Oh yeah, AJ was innocent. Well, we'll see about that. Now, another story as well, big one from 1994 was Nelson Mandela was elected president of South Africa, one of the great men of the last few decades. Absolute great man, Nelson Mandela. He was after apartheid was finally overturned in South Africa, the first of interracial elections, and yeah, he went on to become president, and phenomenal man, still celebrated to this day. Absolute fantastic person.
Mental, because would you have had Barack Obama being as easily accepted as a black president of America? You know, I know obviously, you know, you look at that and you go, you know, Mandela's, that whole thing was just a huge shift.
Yeah, it was.
People in the way politics worked and stuff. It was power of the people, that one, wasn't it? Do you know
it was. And of course the I like the images of him, because he spent time in prison as well. But there's one of these there's one of these things about the you ever heard of the Mandela effect? It's it's like I don't want to say it's a conspiracy, but it's some sort of weird phenomenon that people have got where there's a whole bunch of people who believe that they were so convinced that Nelson Mandela had passed away, and it was his funeral and stuff like that. They'd seen it on TV broadcasted, and then years later they were surprised to see he was still alive. And it's been known as the Mandela effect, where it's one of these, everybody thinks, loads of people are convinced that this definitely happened, and it turned out it's nothing like that at all. But yeah, that was a weird one that I'd seen on YouTube years ago about the Mandela effect. I was like, because I don't remember any of that when I was young. I remember when we get released from prison and stuff like that, and there was like big celebrations around South Africa and when he was announced as president. So I don't know if they're getting that mixed up, but yeah, it's one of these weird mind tricks. I don't know what the hell causes that. I just a little couple of sort of like wee fun bits of news as well. The National Lottery launched in 1994. Russell, we were talking about this earlier on. We're just talking about television in general in the 90s. Saturday Night TV, unbelievable, because yeah, this National Lottery, when it launched on Saturday night, basically backed on an episode of Noel's House Party, which was big in 1994. Noel Edmonds and Mr. Blobby. But yeah, Saturday nights were basically the Generation Game was on, hosted by Bruce Forsyth. You had Noel Edmonds' House Party. On ITV, you had Gladiators, Blind Date, Stars in Their Eyes. Saturday nights, man, that's where it was at. It's incredible. Long for the days we had Sky Plus where you could DVR things and watch it at your own leisure. It was like, oh no, Saturday Night TV, got to watch it. Long before the days of YouTube and stuff like that. But the other major stories I just wanted to talk about just quickly, because it links to football and it links to Celtic. The biggest one I left, the biggest story for us to the end of this part is in 1994, Fergus McCann turned up and saved Celtic Football Club. Russell, do you remember any of this at all, or is it still a bit too early for you in your football life?
No, I remember it, man. I remember it because my memory was that, like, it's so weird because, like, at that point, my dad was an engineer for a telecoms company, you can guess who, and he was doing some work at a house. I can't remember where it was, but of a celebrity, and the celebrity was Jim Kerr.
Okay.
Jim Kerr was being linked at the time with taking over Celtic.
Okay, right.
That. The Simple Minds singer.
Yep. I remember how further down the line, him and Bono were apparently heading up a consortium to try and oust Fergus McCann.
Was it?
Remember that?
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was at that time. I was going to say my memory was pretty strong for this. Maybe it was that. But I mean, like, obviously, you know, the Rebels have won all those moments, mate.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal at the time. I think I've always said this as well. Like, my dad was very guilty at the time of, like, he was only 31 in August 1994, right? But like, I think he thought I was 16, not 6. So he kind of spoke to me like I was a lot older. Like, he'd tell me, do you understand the magnitude of this and that? I'm like, mate, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to write songs on the inside of like a Weetabix cereal box here, like, do you know what I mean? Like calls UFOs, and you're like telling me like how important this takeover is. So in terms of concept, like the concept of Celtic going bust, and McCann's thing, I didn't get it at the time how big it was, but I remember it being all over the news. Like, it was the headline on the news at the time and stuff. Would it have registered at that point in my life, you know, what it meant? No, probably not, Phil.
Yeah, because I can remember it being like live on TV, the breaking news. I can remember my dad watching it, but again, it was just slightly before I'd taken a real interest in football, but I knew it was a big deal. But you can actually find like the full sort of compilation of all the news stories that night on YouTube. It's actually up. Somebody has taken time to basically splice it all together and upload it. It is out there, so it's definitely worth watching because it's a landmark moment in Celtic history. It really is. As dull and dark as the 1990s were, that was like the beginning of modern day Celtic. That is, you know, Fergus McCann, the rebels have won. Indeed, you know, the battle's over, the rebels have won, or the war is over. That was it. Phenomenal moment. And yeah, the hearse outside Parkhead, that's right, with the RRP Celtic. Like, well, that didn't work out for them, did it? We did actually pay our bills, but I
think that's very interesting when Brown Warrior says that, because yes, there was headlines and front covers that are often shared by like that Phil 14-second names, you know what I mean? But like, like that was after the event. Like, the Herald would put up like the wreath and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, after the event. This was going on, like, at the time. See, when you look back at it, I wonder if Brown Warrior agrees. It was almost like they were goading for it, mate.
Yeah, I think so. When you look back at the tone that was used in the different headlines and different newspaper articles, you do get that feeling. By God bless the bonnet. I mean, I still think that they should name like the North Stand or the main stand after him or something at the very least. If they're not going to build a statue for him, they should definitely pay tribute to him in some way at the stadium. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it was him. And the thing I admire with Fergus McCann is he came in and he said, "I've got a 5-year plan." And he stuck to it. He literally did. And yeah, he copped a lot of criticism along the way. A lot of Celtic fans did get frustrated with him, where he would, be like, "No, we're not going out and spending that type of money." There was a whole issue with the Wim Jansen thing. We finally won the title, and then Wim Jansen left, and a lot of people, blamed Fergus McCann for it. But at the end of the day, he's single-handedly saved the club. And if he didn't, who knows where we would be, what we'd be doing nowadays? Who would we be supporting? Partick Thistle? I don't even know. It's scary to think. So, yeah, we owe a lot to Fergus McCann. God bless the bonnet, as one of the comments said.
Yeah, he was forward thinking. He was way ahead of his time. And what he did was pissed off fans at the time because he didn't just cave to everyone's demands. But the demands we were probably having at times were further unrealistic at the time because of the overspending going on across the city.
Yeah.
That's creating panic.
Yep.
And we looked like our strategy was unambitious and miles off, but that was actually far from the reality. In fairness, you actually seen at times signings then that were made on a business model that were within Celtic's realms, within our transfer sort of, capabilities, and also came with selling value, as you found out with like the Canio, Van Hooydonk, these, which isn't, to be replicated then 20 years on. Yes, okay, we signed a younger model then, but I think that was what Fergus was doing then, was actually, he was being pragmatic to the situation in front of him, going, I need players that are, he couldn't go for raw signings then, with selling value. Yeah. What he could do though was get in guys that maybe were unhappy at their current club, but they had to come in at an age where they could get, they could hit the ground running, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You look at Van Hooydonk when he joined, he was 26, 25, 26. Cadete, similar age, 26. Decani would have been 27 probably when he joined. Enrico Annoni, 29, 30 when he joined.
Annoni, yes.
Oh, aye.
What a guy.
These guys that he was bringing in were probably unhappy in their current careers. Well, we'll flip you. Come here, do well, and you might get a move on to where you think you belong to play.
Yeah.
Whereas Celtic's model wasn't too dissimilar for that. Even as recently as under Brendan Rodgers, for example, it was just the age bracket they were getting signed in was, rather than being unhappy where they were, was come here, play a bit of football, and you'll get exposed and you'll get that move. Not too dissimilar when you look at Van Dijk going to Southampton and what it is a Di Canio going to Sheffield Wednesday, in my opinion. I think it's that much of a difference between the, the fees are different, but we got £4 million, I think, in Reggie Blinker for Di Canio. Less said about Blinker, the better.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at the model, Di Canio probably cost Celtic, £1 million, £1.5 It went on for 2-3 times what he'd signed for. So I kind of seen what was happening there. Do you know what I mean?
It's just one of the biggest crimes, I think, in Celtic history that Celtic team of Tommy Burns didn't win anything. They lost one league game all season in 95-96 and still didn't win the title. It's sickening to think about, but
sad.
We were up against a very, very, very strong Rangers team at that point, Paul Gascoigne and Brian Laudrup. It was tough, but we gave them a good run for the money that season. It's just a shame the next season the wheels kind of fell off, where the three amigos kind of became a bit of a toxic environment in the dressing room, a bit of player power. So that was always a bit unfortunate, but I say it's just one of the things. But we ended up, getting in Wim Jansen and then stopped the 10 and pitched history. And Fergus McCann, just going back to him, he will always be celebrated, and he should be. Say, name a stand after him, Celtic, or something. If you're not going to do a statue, just do something, pay tribute to him in some way. But now that we're coming up to the hour mark, we've timed this really, really well because we're in 59 minutes. We've got through the pop culture stuff. We're now going to start looking at the football. You'll be happy to know. I can hear the cheers in the background, like, way, finally. So first thing we'll do before we get into the main games that we're going to talk about, we're going to look at Celtic and Scottish football connections, Russell, because there's a lot more than I thought here. So guys who had a connection to Celtic, whether they'd played with them whether they would go on to play for them or played for them at that point in time.
Yep.
So we'll start with them and then we'll look at the wider Scottish football. But there's literally only one player in this entire World Cup who is a Celtic player, and it's Paddy Bonner. But the ironic bit is he was released by Lou Macari at the end of that season and signed by Tommy Burns at the start of the next season. He was literally a free agent at that point, but we'll give him a pass on this one. So he is literally the only player. And unfortunately for Paddy Bonner, I don't know if you can remember this quite vividly, but this is one that sticks in my head because, again, my dad had told me this guy's a Celtic player, this is the goalkeeper. I will never, ever forget Paddy Bonner fluffing the Wim Jonk shot into the net against Holland in the second round. The Dutch knocked Ireland out in the round of 16, and Bergkamp scored the first one, and Wim Jonk scored the second one from about 20 yards, and Paddy Bonner puts his hands up to catch it and just kind of drops it, and it rolls into the net. And it's like, after his heroics in the first in the World Cup the 4 years before, 1990, he became the villain, unfortunately, for Paddy.
Would I be right in thinking Paddy, or Packy Bonner as he was known, would I be right in thinking that he'd actually agreed to join Kilmarnock under Tommy Burns?
Oh, wait. I didn't know if that's true, but it sounds feasible because Tommy Burns was the Killie manager at that point, and we had to.
Sure, that was the case.
Fergus
that
McCann.
Contract got ripped up.
Because Tommy Burns came to Celtic.
That's why Bonner was leaving Celtic. It was to join Kilmarnock.
Okay.
Under Tommy Burns. I had to throw a wee curveball in there, Phil.
That is a good cover. That's a good fact.
Us all away with far too much knowledge so far. So I was like, I need to have something in the back pocket here.
That's a good one.
But I am pretty sure that Bonner was on his way to Kilmarnock.
I say it is feasible because Lou Macari was the Celtic manager at the end of that season, and according to the official history DVD, this World Cup is the reason why Lou Macari got sacked, because he went to Fergus and said, "I'm going to the World Cup to scout players," and Fergus McCann was like, "You certainly will not be," and a bit of an argument broke out. According to Lou Macari's side of the story on the DVD, he says that Fergus McCann told him, "You'll be coming into your work every single day," to which he's like, "Well, the players are away on their pre-season, there's nothing to do," and it just turned into so Lou Macari's opinion is he was just looking for a reason to get rid of me, other than the fact that he was quite rubbish as manager and Celtic had a shocker of a season. But yeah, we ended up with Fergus McCann getting dragged through the courts in the summer that year because he went and poached Tommy Burns away illegally, supposedly from Kilmarnock. So it does sound feasible that Paddy Bonner would have agreed to go there, but yeah, Tommy Burns took over and then suddenly Paddy Bonner was signed back at Celtic again. But yeah, he's literally the only player at that World Cup who is, you could say, a current Celtic player, but there is players who would go on to play for Celtic and ones that had played. So I looked through the Ireland team, and any eagle-eyed person as well will notice that our background tonight is from the Ireland-Italy game at the World Cup. Pagliuca currently picking the ball out the net behind us from Ray Houghton's absolute storm of a goal. But yeah, so some of the names that were connected to the club: Tommy Coyne, who was actually a Motherwell player at this point, playing at a World Cup, a Motherwell player. Wow. Dimitri Karin would go on to play for Celtic, although did Karin never get a game for Celtic? He did.
Definitely played for Celtic, yep.
Speaking of goalkeepers, Magnus Hedman was at this World Cup. Oh, yeah.
He used to be the jobby catchers, eh?
He did. Other goalkeepers, Magnus Hedman was at this World Cup. Didn't play because Sweden's number one keeper was Thomas Ravelli, but Magnus Hedman was there. Russell, you worked it out. He's 21 years old at this World Cup, you believe?
Born in 1973, so he would have been 20 or 21.
Yep.
So I find that astonishing. I mean, you look at it. I mean, he ended up, I think he would have went on to finish his career with, I think it'd be fair to say, about 80 caps for Sweden, something like that. And again, I don't have stats in front of me, so I'm guessing, but a hell of a lot of international caps, probably a lot of big tournament experience, and yet, let's be honest, in a Celtic jersey, he flattered to deceive, I would say, at the very least, Phil.
Oh, God, yeah, we always remember that Bayern Munich game, the one where we were beating them 1-0 till about 10 minutes to go, and then Roy Mackay scores two. The one from about 30 yards where he bends in, it bounces right in front of him, right in, That Champions League campaign will always be known for just us shooting ourselves in the foot, because there was the Lyon game as well where we 2-0 down, got it back to 2-2, and then Bobo Balde handballed it in the box and gave away a penalty or something, or we 2-0 up maybe. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we lost 3-2 in the end and we got ourselves back at the game. Lyon, yeah. Were we 2-0 up or were they 2-0 up? Balde handball, yeah. See, that whole campaign. shooting herself on the foot.
Winning.
Yeah.
It was, but Headman was meant to be brought in as the upgrade to Douglas.
Douglas, yeah.
And I think when you look at Seville, for example, you seen Douglas's limitations, shall we say, exposed. And you look at it on paper, you go, it's a bit of a coup getting Headman. It never materialised at Celtic, but fascinated me that he was Sweden's backup keeper back in '94.
He was indeed. Another player as well who, less said about this one, the better, Tony Cascarino, whose only notable moment at Celtic was he came on as a sub at Ibrox, got ironically cheered by the Rangers fans, and then Nigel Spackman proceeded to pass the ball back to the goalie. Cascarino intercepted the pass and scored the equaliser that day. So that's Cascarino's only real achievement in a Celtic shirt. I believe we swapped him for Tom Boyd, which isn't a bad deal in the end of the day. We swapped him with Chelsea, you get Tom Boyd. And another player as well going to the Ireland squad, Roy Keane, who would go on to have a spell at Celtic. We love Roy Keane on the bus, don't we? So he's in the intro. He's in the bloody intro of the show.
Well, why should I put up with that? Roy Keane, though. Roy Keane at that point, you remember, 94 World Cup, by then he's approaching his 23rd birthday. So a guy who was as much of a, to me, I mean, he's still to this day, in my humble opinion and biased opinion, I may add as well, but he still makes the English Premier League's all-time 11.
Oh God, yeah.
Me, and it should really, that one, at 22 years old, and you've got a player of that quality who goes on to have the career that he does, it should be no surprise really that a country like Ireland with limited pool of players to choose from, that him at 22 was already in the midfield there. I think actually that one makes perfect sense to me. Although I suppose people's memories of Roy Keane from that World Cup might be few and far between, because such was his efforts at Saipan in 2002. But no, I've got to say, I think it makes perfect sense for me that Roy Keane, a country as small as Ireland at 22, he was in that squad. I think it makes perfect sense. And no surprise when I seen him, when I was doing my homework on the old YouTube, when I seen him, and yes, I did go, yes, when I seen him as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a born winner. That's the thing. Like, I could listen to him all day. I mean, I absolutely love his punditry nowadays. He is absolutely box office, but the guy is just a winner. He just, he expects best. He played in a Man United team which didn't settle for second best, and I can't blame him nowadays when you see the absolute shambles that Man United are in. And, Terence, thank you for bringing that up. Because my next line was, Russell, do you want to know a really interesting fact, mate? I bet you've never heard this one before, mate. I'll bet you've never, mate. Do you know that Paul McGrath almost signed for Celtic? Did you know that? I bet you didn't. I bet all the viewers didn't. You should give that a like just for that fact that I've just told you there that nobody else has ever told you. You never heard that one before, have you? So there you go. Paul McGrath nearly signed for Celtic, mate.
He talks, honestly. He's honestly, that wee idiot is honestly. He said that story so many times, man. So many times. Cheers, Paul, mate.
Cheers, Paul.
Aye. I mean, what would you think of that? He'd be wonderful in a Celtic jersey. Oh, shut up, mate. We know. But top defender in that.
Yeah.
Like the wee bevy and also respect. But
aye.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a bit of a cult hero as well to a lot of people, other than the wee fella.
Well, speaking of heroes, I'll be putting this one off. We're saving the best to last again. There's a guy at this World Cup who would go on to have an incredible Celtic career, synonymous with the hoops. Russell, what do you want to say about Henrik Larsson? We could go for another 2 hours starting with Henrik. Oh my God.
Just the best. I mean, the best. I have a weird memory, as you know, with years of birth and all that sort of shit, but I promise, when we signed him for Celtic, I was buzzing. I know a lot of people went, Henrik who? I knew he was, but not because I'd followed his career. Yeah. There was no, Wikipedia then, he wasn't exactly in a Britannica encyclopedia that often, which used to be the internet for you kids out there. But Henrik Larsson, I remember the dreadlocks, and I remember him scoring in the third place playoff. I remember it because I was obsessed by then with this tournament. I remember the goal. I remember he kind of scored one very, very similar in his comeback game at Euro 2000, which we may cover on Phil's World Tour, you know. But he scored a very similar goal to that against Italy, and he's sort of come back really after his leg break. But in this game's third place playoff, Bulgaria are the unlikeliest of unlikely opposition. And I wonder if Hedman maybe got a run out in goals in that game. That'd be interesting. Since
point.
Henrik did, because I don't remember Henrik featuring in the all important matches, shall we say?
Yeah.
But Sweden made the semi-finals then with a cool as kit.
Oh yeah, the Adidas template that year was phenomenal.
And again, it is a template though, which is quite frustrating when you look at all the resources Adidas have. Should it all be templates? But in fairness, they got it right. The three stripes sort of coming, sort of going horizontally or vertically, horizontally. Up.
So that sort of diagonal thing, like three of them coming on the other side.
Diagonal, good word. And Henrik with the dreads, so iconic.
Yep.
Charles Smith seems to think Larsson was playing as a winger for Sweden in '94. I'm not convinced he featured. I am not convinced he featured much.
From doing my homework the other day, he obviously scores in the third place playoff. He scores in the penalty shootout against Romania, having come on as a sub, though he didn't start any games other than the third place playoff, I do believe, but he definitely scored in the third place one. But yeah, another wee fun fact for you about Larsson, he is an amazing pointless answer on the TV show Pointless. Yes. He is, if you ever get a World Cup question on that, Henrik Larsson is always my go-to answer, and it's like he's always pointless. People forget about him all the time. There's one time it came up, it's like players that have scored 5 or more goals in the World Cup in their career, and I'm like, Henrik Larsson. And of course, at the end, Richard Osman reads out all the pointless answers. There he was, Henrik Larsson. But again, I can't say enough superlatives about him. I could go on. I say we could go on for 2-3 hours talking about Henrik Larsson. So we're aware of our time here. But yeah, what he would go on to achieve at Celtic, absolutely phenomenal, iconic. Here's a question: do you think he was better after the leg break, like when he came back? Do you think that was like even peak Larsson, or do you think before that? Because he was good either side of it, but it feels like you've got pre-leg break and post-leg break Larsson, and it's like when he came back, he was on a mission. Like it was his next season, he scored 50 goals the next season. It's unbelievable.
53 goals.
53. Jesus.
After the leg break, he wins the European Golden Boot.
European Golden Boot.
I think why he was better was this is what splits. I don't want to say the men with the boys. It's maybe a wee bit harsh on other people that have had such injuries. But it was a turning point in the sense that I think Henrik was frustrated. And I actually think you've seen elements of this in his career. See, when Larsson was pissed off, he was peak Larsson. And I think he came back in 2000, 2001, pissed off that when he'd left through his injury, shall we say, when he'd had to sort of depart the first team for, John Barnes' Celtic side weren't doing all that bad.
Yeah, that's right.
They made a very, very strong league start. They had a partnership, what could have been in Larsson and Viduka, that could have went down in the ages, mate. Because Viduka's, you only need to look at his career in the EPL to see some of the moments of brilliance he had in a Leeds shirt, Middlesbrough shirt, even at Newcastle, were phenomenal. And I think Larsson knew that we'd ended up losing a manager then. We'd ended up losing the league at a canter for Rangers. And I think he felt frustrated at the whole thing. Like, we'd turned the tide in 97, 98. And yet, by 99, 2000, it had all been brought back to where it kind of was when he first joined the club after the 96, 97 season. And I think Larsson was annoyed that the injury prevented him doing what he could do. I think he was frustrated that there was doubts over whether he would come back better. And I think these are all the right sticks in a way to prod Larsson with. Yeah. Because I think it just brings out the best in him, Phil. Do you know what I mean? And I think post leg break he was better.
Aye.
But I think that's because his mental side of his game grew yet another layer of toughness to it that I think he's always probably had to an extent. But I think it was amplified by the leg break.
you've said before about he had a bit of arrogance in him because he believed in his ability. There's the famous when we beat Blackburn Rovers in the run to the UEFA Cup final, the post-match interview where he kind of threw Graham Souness's words back at him, and even when a microphone got put in front of him, he said, "Yeah, we played shit in the first leg." The BBC are like, "Oh, sorry for the swearing, everybody," but yeah, he was like, he said it was men against boys. We came down here with a point to prove, and he did. Yep. He gave a point, but. What a player. And yeah, on this magical mystery tour that we'll be doing through different tournaments, Henrik Larsson is going to pop up a lot. But this is Larsson before he joined Celtic. So at this point in the Celtic universe, like the Marvel cinematic universe, like the Celtic universe, Henrik Larsson isn't really on our radar yet.
No.
Wait a couple of years and he will come and save the day. But there was a few other Scottish football connections. I mean, it blew my mind. Half the Dutch team basically go on to play for Rangers. Dick Advocaat is the Dutch manager at this World Cup, and they've also got the De Boer brothers, Frank and Ronald. Your favourite, Arthur Newman?
Yes, Arthur Newman was very much at the World Cup with a large Adams apple and Dick Advocaat, a great drink and manager. Dick was fantastic because he was helping me with my Rangers career at the time. But I mean, Dick Advocaat was a manager then, man. Of Holland as well, which I honestly didn't know until last night. I had no idea.
He's had another few stints since then, and I say so is Ronald Koeman and Van Gaal. They keep rotating the same three managers around. I think Ronald Koeman's turn's coming up next, and then it'll be Dick Advocaat's turn again after that. But yeah, they also had another Dutch striker who went on to play for Rangers, who's quite infamous, Peter van Vossen, who famously missed one right on the line against us at Celtic Park. Jorg Alberts teed him up for one, and he skied it right over the bar. So that's a moment he doesn't want to. But he's quite an infamous bad signing from Rangers when they were just throwing money at things in the mid-90s. Also, a couple of Swedish players that went on to play for Rangers, Joachim Björklund and John Astern as well, were also at this World Cup.
But Björklund, I remember particularly, went on to have a career in Serie A. I think he played for Valencia as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did. Yeah, Valencia.
Decent career, decent. Jonas Tern, remember bits and bobs of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not that memorable a player. My memory of Björklund that's really a good one is John. What was his name? Played for Bolton up front, Scottish.
John McGinlay.
John McGinlay, same surname as you. That's how you got it.
Yep. And, World Cup qualifier.
And it's him against Björklund, I'm sure, when he scores that goal in the World Cup qualifier, if I'm not mistaken, Phil.
Yeah, it is indeed. And also Björklund. The only time we beat Rangers in the 96-97 season was a Scottish Cup game, and Björklund gave away a penalty against us, fouled George Cadet. So that's my only memories of him. But another Rangers player I know that you wanted to highlight, a certain Claudio Caniggia played at this World Cup when he played for Dundee. A mad Dundee team at that point in time. Absolutely bonkers. Then went on to play for Rangers. But how surreal was that Dundee side in the early 2000s, mate? Ivano Bonetti.
I find it frightening that, Dundee signed Caniggia when he was 33. Now, Caniggia by that point had scored crucial goals at World Cup 1990. He had featured at World Cup 94 as a, I think he was 26, 27 there. Obviously a good mate of Maradona's, a bit of a colourful past, we could say. But realistically, again, I'll try and do a sort of mirror it to the modern day. It's the equivalent of, I don't know, Dundee at that point were probably a bottom half team, like St Mirren, maybe, right now are. Yep. That are striving to get to that next level. You can see it in that they are. And they've probably got, Stephen Robinson, an ambitious manager, like they did have with Jim Duffy, for example, at Dundee. And, Caniggia joining them, 2 World Cups under his belt, World Cup finalist in 1990.
Yep.
They exited, obviously, once Maradona was kicked out the World Cup, and I know you'll talk about that, Phil. But Caniggia joins Dundee at 33 with, I don't know by then, 40, 50 caps for Argentina, 2 World Cups he's featured at, and was part of a Dundee side in 2001, 2002 sort of era that, was littered. Wasn't even the only Argentine international in that team, Phil. Beto Carranza. I don't know, suppose people remember. Beto, as he was known,
Yeah.
He was, Beto had 17, 18 caps for Argentina, and he was only 28, 29 when he joined Dundee. So he was in his peak.
Wow.
I always think, when I look back at Caniggia joining them after Dundee, I think that was Celtic missed a trick a wee bit there. I
Could have
actually
done a job.
I think he would have been your Lubo.
Oh, yeah.
That is the
Well,
honest truth. Lubo checked out in the summer 2002 because he wanted his crack at the Champions League.
Yeah.
I think it was the summer 2002, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was 2001.
No, that's true too. He played in the Champions League in a few of the games, so it was the end of the 01-02 season.
Sorry, when Caniggia joined Rangers.
Oh, Caniggia joined Rangers. Aye, summer of 2002. Yep, it was.
It was that summer?
Aye, because he played against us the next season, the 02-03 season. He was playing for Rangers against us.
I'm sure he joined them in 01. I think he joined them in 01. But anyway, even if there was a crossover, you can't have enough good players. And O'Neill liked wildcard signings like that as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think he would have fitted in that. I think he would have been a brilliant player for us to have had at 34 years old. Caniggia was I've tried to think of a comparison to this day and age. I mean, you're looking at someone of, it's going to sound far-fetched, but like Di Maria, something like that, if he'd lost his way. And Di Maria's stayed at the top.
Yeah.
But same sort of pedigree.
Yep.
Not too dissimilar amount of caps. Caps weren't dished out as much as they are now. I mean, so many players now hit 100 caps, right? So trust me, when Caniggia had 40 to 50 when he joined Dundee, that was probably equivalent to someone with 80 to 90 these days. There's a lot more international fixtures than there were before.
Yep.
But absolutely frightening to think a guy, what is Di Maria now, 34 leaving?
33, 34, aye. So he's been the same age as Caniggia would have been
Imagine
missing.
he rocks up at St Mirren, you know what I mean, this summer. Like, what the fuck? Incredible. I know we'll be doing tournaments that'll be nearer that time of Dundee, and they'll come up as well again. But a couple of examples, I mean, Caniggia at that World Cup, you know, top player.
Yeah.
And to think he was in the SPFL, and not directly by joining one of the big two for Glasgow, but by joining Dundee is... what?
Sensational. It was always made for a good champ manager save back then. And also another guy, he's a bit of a cult hero. He's the only guy in World Cup history to have scored 5 goals in one game when he stat padded like crazy against Cameroon. Oleg Salenko for Russia would go on to play for Rangers and be an absolute colossal flop, but he did win the Golden Boot at this tournament. He did do that. And speaking of flops as well, Bertie Vogts was also a manager at this tournament. He was a German manager. He would win Euro 96.
I think I've got another Rangers flop before you go on to Bertie Vogts.
Okay.
Prodan.
Daniel Prodan was at this World Cup. Now that is one, yeah. Injured pretty much a whole season, wasn't he? Oh, God.
Sorry, Phil. I just had to dive in with that because I seen him in one of the highlights things. Aye.
Pretty much injured an entire season when he signed. But Bertie Vogts, to say, did well for Germany. Used to think I looked like Caniggia. Oh, mate.
Nice one, Gerald, mate. You must look cool, man.
But the less said about Bertie Vogts' Scotland time, the better. The only thing I remember him from is that time we got beat by Germany. He's getting interviewed, and somebody in the background shouting, "Cheats! Fucking cheats!" And he just goes, Christian! It's Christian Daly. Yeah. Because you didn't know who it was. He could have kept it anonymous, but no, Bertie Vogts just basically let us know, Christian! So yeah, that's the only thing I can remember about Bertie Vogts' time as Scotland manager. It was not a good time at all. And yeah, just another couple of, just before we move on, there was 2 Bulgarian players as well that ended up at Aberdeen. Svetanov and Kiryakov both ended up in the mid-90s signing for Aberdeen. Now, you said something like Aberdeen paid quite a decent fee for Kiryakov.
Kiryakov one, I can't find it online. I did try, but I definitely in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. And what's the other one called?
Svetanov.
He was 500 grand. And my memory is pretty good with these things, but I just don't have any evidence to back up. But if my memory serves me right, Kiryakov, who featured heavily for Bulgaria, both did actually that World Cup. Kiryakov more memorable because of the fiery red hair and the quite a bit of a temper as well. But I've got a feeling Aberdeen paid more for him than Svetanov.
Yeah, okay. See, I can't remember much about them at Aberdeen.
Aye. And Kiriakov ended up playing at Aberdeen for a couple of years, 3-4 years, I think he was there.
Was that the Aberdeen? I can remember Aberdeen had a kit where they're all red, but they had like a sort of blue design on it. Like there was like blue like lines up here, up in the shoulders, or a sort of purple colour. There was my North Sound Radio. Yeah.
There was the North Sound Radio. There was another sponsor they had as well, man. That Kiriakov I can picture in the shirt.
Is it AFAB?
No, it was like block capital letters, two lines. Two lines. Oh,
just envision them in that kit.
Aye, man. Let me try and see if I can find a photo. We can pull it up in the screen. This is the beauty.
Oh yeah, so you can, screen share.
This is the beauty of the internet, mate. You know? We're not in 1994, actually, Phil. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Like we are actually in 2022. Look, that living design.
Living design,
mate.
Of course.
Right. See, we should have probably been doing this throughout the show. If I'd been, half with it, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm terrible at this sort of thing. But
that's all right.
I don't know if we're breaching copyright rules either. Who knows?
Should be okay, I think.
There it is. Big kitty.
Oh God, with the white shorts, Aberdeen every so often will have white shorts,
Was that the blue you were talking about?
No, there's one from the season, a couple of seasons before. They've got like North Sound Radio as a sponsor, and it's like sort of like blue, purple, sort of like lines up in the shoulder area. But yeah, I can remember the white living design. Jeez, oh.
Puma making that Aberdeen shirt as well.
Jesus,
not bad. Can't imagine Puma investing in Aberdeen now, can you?
Or even a player that played at the World Cup signing for Aberdeen, just again, stuff like that. It's like, wow. Fair play, man. But yeah, it was a strange time back then. To see Scottish teams were spending all sorts of money. Parks of Hamlin. Well, we'll wait and see. He's working on it just now. So we'll do a wee sort of roundup of just how the pre-tournament roundup, just a wee bit of looking at just very quickly the teams that didn't qualify are more notable, I think, than who did. So in terms of the home nations, as you said at the start of the show, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland didn't qualify. Now, England didn't qualify for this World Cup as well.
Correct.
And I'm going to say this now to anyone watching, listen to what I'm about to say. If you have not seen The Impossible Job about Graham Taylor, I implore you at some point to watch it. It's on YouTube and it's full. It's a fly-on-the-wall documentary following Graham Taylor during that campaign, and it would go on to be parodied by Mike Bassett, England manager. Because if you've seen Mike Bassett, you will watch this and go, wait a minute, this is a direct parody. It is unintentional comedy gold. It is phenomenal. Graham Taylor running up the sideline, chasing the linesman, like, linesman, what is going on here? Your mate's just cost me my job. But the game against Holland, they do get done. It's like a big long ball gets punted up to, say it's Ian Wright, and Ronald Koeman pulls him down outside the box. He's the last man. He doesn't even get a red card. He gets booked. And 5 minutes later, Koeman is still on the park to score the free kick that sends Holland to the World Cup and knocks England out. And it's an outrageous decision. I mean, at the end of the day, I got a chuckle out of it because it's England. But yeah, it is a mental decision. But yeah, if you haven't seen The Impossible Job, you will find it on YouTube and it's full glorious entirety. You have to watch it at some point. But yeah, in terms of the big teams that qualify, I say England and France are probably the two big ones that didn't make it. And France were actually knocked out by Bulgaria in the playoffs going into this, and Bulgaria did play a rather significant part of this World Cup. They weren't just one-trick ponies, it seems. They took a few scalps along the way.
Yes, there was... And as we were talking about earlier, the third place playoff was contested between Sweden
and Bulgaria.
Or, as our legendary contributor, the Punk Duck Warlord calls it, Bulgaria. It's Bulgaria, mate. So we bag. He lives there every now and then. So he lives between like Vancouver and Bulgaria. So if he's watching, big shout out to him. I hope he's good.
Yes, indeed, Liam.
But yeah, Bulgaria.
Yeah, I hope we'll be talking about them and one of our talking points for the main tour. Because guess what? We still haven't even gone to the main tournament yet. I knew this would go long, but hey,
I know.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, so here we go. We're going into the USA World Cup. So this is them being awarded tournament, and it was all part of their grand scheme to kickstart soccer in the USA, because they did have a league back in the 70s and 80s where Pele Beckenbauer, Cruyff all went over there to basically get a final paycheck. George Best played out there. I believe Bobby Moore had a stint as well in the NASL, the North American Soccer League, but it basically shut down sometime in the 80s. Although you do get things like retro New York Cosmos tops and stuff are like a hot commodity, they're a good hipstery type thing. But yeah, the MLS was the big grand idea. They were going to relaunch soccer in the USA. So this was part of it, getting this secured 1994, and then in 1996 the MLS would launch. Just a quick question, Russell, have you ever seen any early footage of the MLS from the 90s?
No.
You need to see the penalty shootouts. They are phenomenal, mate.
Is that when they round the keeper?
Yes, they basically start from the halfway line. Yeah, it's like watching halftime entertainment at Celtic Park where 5 mates come on and have to beat the goalkeeper by running with the ball. That's what it basically was. Because in America, they don't like draws. They don't like a tie. So they will
just... What do you think of it as a concept?
I'm not a big fan of it, but I know that Johan Cruyff, there's a quote somewhere from Cruyff saying that that should be what penalty shootouts are. Because he says there's more skill involved in it instead of just kicking the ball from the... Which I know Eddie Cruyff is Cruyff, and he was the one that made the penalty famous one, but he passed it to the side that Arsenal tried to replicate and made an absolute arse of it. Remember that? But yeah, there is a quote somewhere out there from Johan Cruyff saying that he thinks it's a good idea, but I'm just bedded in my traditions. I like penalty shootouts the way they are. I do, but I can understand his logic a wee bit. I can see it. Like, there is a lot of skill. You're bearing down that goalkeeper and... what about yourself, Russell? Would you change it to that if you could?
I don't know. I think I take Cruyff's point. I think there is more skill involved. I also think the goalkeeper can be more impulsive. I think it's a bit regimented. Like they've got to stay on the line.
Yeah.
Like you're not really meant to actually dive until the ball's hit. I don't think is like an unwritten rule as well. I don't think you're meant to be, making that move first, but I think now when you're seeing the way players are sort of like fainting in their run-up and stuff, that, I think they are losing their magic a wee bit. I don't know. I think the game's evolving all the time. I don't think it was the worst idea, I'll say. I'm not going to say I am voting for it to come back, but I don't think it was a stupid format, if that makes sense. We need to come in here, though, Phil. Paul Diet!
Yes!
Thank you,
welcome aboard, Paul Diet.
And there is options to become members if you want.
Yes, indeed.
$1.99 a month. We are sitting now, Phil, on 27 members.
Good stuff. Nice.
It's incredible because obviously as the sponsorship comes to an end from fanboyfootball.com in 6 days, this is actually ensured that the channel remains self-sufficient, which is all I've ever wanted for it. As I say, I'm not here to run away as a millionaire or sell the business for £1 million one day, Russell. Oh, it's a quote. Oh, it's a quote for who. But what I will say is I don't also want to be doing like 20 shows a month and actually paying it to do that. It'd be brilliant if it just can pay for itself. That's all. I love doing it. Paul Diet, you have helped us on our way to being a self-sufficient, self-paid for podcast, and that is all I can ask for, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much, Paul Diet. Sorry, Phil.
Welcome aboard, Paul. No, I was just going to quickly just say on that penalty shootout concept, I think it's just, again, us being sort of gatekeeper type fans, because Americans... we kind of look at them trying to this is our sport, football, soccer is ours, British, European, basically the rest of the world, anywhere other than America. So when you see Americans getting a hold of it and doing something a bit different, you're like, whoa, what are you doing? Stop, don't do that. That's not how it's done. They had the balls to try something different, but we see it and it just looks really odd to us because we're grounded in tradition. They don't know all that though. They're just trying something new. So I think that plays a part in it. I say they call it a gatekeeper fan where you're really protective of your thing. Like, no, this is ours. Stop messing around with it. But there probably is an element of that. But I don't think it was a terrible idea. But I just always remember seeing clips. I think Channel 5 showed MLS highlights in its early stages. And I can remember watching clips of them taking penalty shootouts from the halfway line. It was a weird time.
It is different. And you knew they were always going to come up like the Americans. They've got to try and take over a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, turn it into, you know, they want to really convert football into being soccer, and by calling it soccer, that means they've got to put their own sort of twist and stamp on it. I've got to say though, for all the ideas they potentially could have came up with based on their other sports, I'm not that against this idea in terms of I don't think it's that ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just quickly, Stevie Kenny, how'd you do it? There should be a join button.
Somewhere
I think
down there.
iPhone users are having problems. I know John Duncan's asking how'd you do it on iPhone. Maybe try go on it on your Safari and just go onto YouTube as opposed to on the app. There should be a join button below the video. If not, use your laptop, and if you're on Android, it'll definitely be there. There's a wee join button. You just hit it, and there's 3 different tiers. 2 of the tiers were set by YouTube that are like $5.99 and stuff, $3.99. I've not got anything to do with them, but I can't take them off. They are set in stone, Phil, by YouTube. That is a fact.
Yep.
I've actually created my own one. You're only allowed to create 1 tier. I've created my own one. I put it to the cheapest possible price, which is $1.99, and I made it for the longest amount of time, which is a month. The other ones are like a week for $5.99, which I don't want anyone going down that road.
Yeah.
I want it to be, you know, $1.99 for a month. If you're in a position you can do that, and you're enjoying the content, and you want to support the channel, there is literally no obligation to be doing that, no expectance to be doing it. I will continue to churn this out for free, always. All I was saying was, it's nice to get a wee reward of a tip, if you want to call it a tip. If I was serving you dinner on a, you know, what night are we on? Wednesday night, Phil?
Wednesday,
we've
mate.
been your waiters for 2 hours, and you've chucked us a $1.99 tip, and it means actually you're going to get 20 different services off us through that month, your bus services, you could call it. I don't think it's bad. If you want to do it, it's cool. But if you don't, we've got no one's holding a gun at anyone's head to do it. So, all good. All good.
Well, this is the number 94 bus, mate. This is what we're on tonight, the number 94 service.
Like that. That's
Yeah, so that number 94. So the cities that are hosting, all the big hitters, all the big ones: LA, San Francisco, Detroit, New Jersey, Dallas, Chicago, Orlando, Boston, and Washington were all of the host cities for the World Cup. So off we go. So Russell, let's talk about that opening ceremony, that one, because opening ceremonies, they are part of every big sporting event: World Cups, European Championships, the Olympics, the Commonwealth Games. You might sit down and watch the opening ceremony. It's on for, say, an hour or whatever, and it tends to be 5 minutes after it's finished. You've forgot everything you've literally watched. They don't really stand the test of time, but this opening ceremony does stand the test of time, because the penalty kick that was heard around the world, for all the youngsters out there, if you think that Georgios Giakoumakis' penalty against Livingston was a shocker, you have seen nothing yet, because opening game in Chicago, we get, in typical American fashion, it's overblown, it's all, you know, fireworks, pyrotechnics. Oprah Winfrey is the hostess. She comes out, she introduces Motown legend Diana Ross, who comes out and mimes really terribly one of her hits. And then she runs to the end of the park, and there's a goal set up, Russell, with a goalkeeper standing in it. There's a ball sitting there right in front of her.
Unbelievable.
And all she's got, it's all set up. It's all set up just for her to basically put it in the net, because the goalkeeper is going to dive out of the way. And she completely fluffs it. But then, first of all, the goalkeeper actually ends up diving the right way, because she's Diana Ramsey. Yes. I should actually use the Aaron Ramsey penalty comparison. Yeah. She actually scuffs it to the goalkeeper's right, but the goalkeeper actually dives that way. So I'm trying to think in my head, imagine it had actually gone on target and the goalkeeper had saved it. How much worse that would even look. He'd like a right heel. But yeah, the pyrotechnics still go off. The goals kind of split in half. Like, you know, a big fanfare to it. But it is iconic. I say it stands the time. I can still remember watching this as a child with my mum and my dad, and we were all laughing at it, because, you know, Diana Ross is a music icon. So even my mum knew who she was and stuff like that. Like, what? And yeah, the penalty kick, it still stands the test of time to this day, because, yeah, I say opening ceremonies, they're like so easy to forget, but that one, mate, unbelievable moment.
It's incredible. I mean, all those purists of football that had doubts going, what the fuck's the tournament going over to America for? They don't even like football over there. I tell you, this would be shite. That's what they're all saying at that moment, eh? See all the folk that said when it was announced, fucking America, what's going on? They don't even care, they call it soccer, they don't know anything about football. Then that happens and they just get smug and they go, fucking told you. I told you. They don't have a clue. She did that probably on purpose. She probably thinks that is a goal. Do you know what I mean? It's funny, Diana Ross is my favourite female singer of all time, Phil.
Interesting, okay.
Yes, she
Yeah,
is. She has a voice of an angel, man.
Mm-hmm.
Voice of an angel. So many songs she's done that the way she sings it, her voice is just incredible.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, firstly, that she mind when you can sing that well.
Yep.
Secondly, how many times, right, here's the clincher for me. Have they done a rehearsal? They must have.
Yeah, must have.
Of course they have.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there was a seeded out there, they went, do you know what, Diana, just go put the ball down again, pal. Right? Yeah. And, like, have another wee go, because that one was touch and go there, but that was going to go, I don't know. You know, and maybe, like, working the techers a wee bit. No. She's just out there, quaver toes, and it's a million miles wide, and unbelievable. Stephen Coulter, yes.
Good stuff. Well done, Stephen.
What a night, man.
In my head, I had it that she was maybe wearing high heels or something, but she's not. She's wearing trainers during it. But her XG was 0 for that one. You know, she absolutely fluffed it right past the post. But what I love the most is they still went with it, like the goalpost split. I say in my head again, I had this idea that confetti blew up and stuff, but it turns out confetti didn't. But I do always laugh at how the goalkeeper inadvertently goes the right way, and I'm like, man, imagine he'd actually saved it by accident. He'd look like a right heel for doing that one.
Still thinks you could have carried it out better, even if that's happened, right? And he saved it by accident, Phil, right?
Yeah.
And he could have somehow, like, dramatically threw himself into the goal, and then it falls apart. But the ball just goes a million miles wide, mate.
Yeah, it does. It's nothing you can do. Aye.
It's toe curling. It is. Aye. And I don't mean the shot. Yeah. I mean, it is cringe, isn't it?
It's mate. And because of that, ironically, we get this amazing stat where this World Cup is bookended by a terrible penalty kick at each end, because the first kick of the tournament is Diana Ross's penalty, and we'll get on to what the last kick of the tournament was in a wee while. Yes, we will. So it's a weird start where it's bookended by two terrible penalties. Yeah, but Diana Ross wasn't the only singer that performed. Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates fame from the 1980s. Great songwriter, some amazing tunes back then. He performed Gloryland, which was the official theme song of the World Cup. And if I had to describe it, it's basically Glory, Glory, Alleluia without being Glory, Glory, Alleluia. I think the organisers just cordoned on that lots of teams in the UK have got that as like their own adaptation of it. So we'll just do an adaptation of it. But it's pure glorious American cheese. Honestly, it is exactly what you would think it is. It is one you've got to go and listen to after this. Along with The Impossible Job. Listen to Gloryland and watch The Impossible Job. That's your homework for tonight, everybody. But the first game wasn't exactly a spectacle. Because again, I'm new to football at this point in my life, right? So I just know that the premise of the game is to put the ball in the net. That's what I know they've got to do. My dad's explained it to me. And I can remember as a kid, an 8-year-old being very, very cranky and annoyed with my dad because this game, nobody was scoring. It was a real slog. Germany played Bolivia. This was at the time when the reigning champion would play in the opening game, not the host nation. Yep. So Germany opened it against Bolivia, and it was roasting hot in Chicago. It looked like a game where the Germans were just feeling the heat, but Bolivia just weren't good enough to do any damage against them. But midway through the first half, Jurgen Klinsmann finally scores and puts us all out of his misery. There you go, Klinsmann winner. And yeah, that was all that was needed in that game. But yeah, it wasn't exactly a shining game to open it up. And I say, my first exposure really to football, when I'm properly paying attention, it wasn't really winning me over right away, to say the least. Do you remember anything at all?
Nah, man. Fuck
yeah,
all.
It's a pure unmemorable game.
Don't remember anything about it. Patrick McLaughlin saying Klinsmann winner.
Klinsmann winner.
Which, to be fair, he's like, so I was saying like 94.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's when football really, like, I got the bug for it in that
yep.
film. And, like, see, after the World Cup 94, if I'm right, Klinsmann signs for Spurs that season.
He does, 94-95 season, he goes to Spurs. But he's at Monaco at this point in time. That's who he's playing for.
And the first strip I ever get, not a Celtic strip, Spurs strip.
With Holston on the front.
Aye, and you didn't get that because it was a kid stop, so it had no sponsor.
Oh, of course.
And it has like, it's yellow with like this blue sort of check sort of pattern over there. And I remember like years later, because it became like a thing every couple of years. I'd get a Spurs shirt for like my birthday and that. I would ask for it. Like, they became like a team for me down in England. They were always second, but that's how it was. I remember saying to my dad, going, how does this happen? Like, your favourite team in England's Arsenal. Why am I like Spurs? I'm like, oh, it's like that, is it?
Okay.
So basically, he just wanted to, like, he didn't, whilst he was quite happy with us both supporting Celtic, I think he was like, we can't get on everything, man.
Yeah.
But he said basically, I was prone to a Klinsmann dive.
Oh, Klinsmann dive with the goal celebration.
That's why he bought me the Spurs strip to start with. He went, because you loved that guy, that 94-95 season. Because I had no idea where Spurs finished in the league that year or anything, but I was just obviously watching it going, oh, I'll do that. And you know what I mean? Your
hair's a bit young in Klinsmann just now when looking at it. It's a bit Klinsmann-like. Yeah. But no, my first strip was actually the Ireland kit after this World Cup, and it had Opel as a sponsor. They were the only national team that had a sponsor in the front of their kit. I bought the Republic of Ireland one. That was mine. The full thing as well, shorts and socks as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was just after this World Cup. That was the first one I bought. We'll move on to more positive things. I say the opening game, it wasn't exactly a good one. It was what it is. Say for me and Russell, first game, it's not really endearing us to the sport. But luckily, the next topic we've got, there's plenty that endears us to the sport. So the title of it, I've said it's the perfect 10, and the reason I'm calling it that is I'm going to list off a whole plethora of players just now, right? So Diego Maradona, Dennis Bergkamp, Roberto Baggio, Georgie Hagi, Martin Dahlin, Lothar Matthäus, JJ Okocha, Carlos Valderrama. Every one of them are at this World Cup. Every one of them are wearing the number 10 on the back of their shirt as well for their country. One absolute World Cup of total ballers. Definitely the World Cup of the attacking midfielder, looking at it there. That is a hell of a list right there.
That's just a roll of honour. Those number 10s you just listed there, man.
Yeah.
Like, where do you even begin with that? I think Valderrama, he was one of those folk that, again, being young folk can kind of hampy at times, because I remember Colombia played England in a friendly. Remember the scorpion kick?
Yes, Vinny Higuita.
Valderrama to me was just a haircut.
Yes, the haircut,
lack of.
Yeah.
But never appreciated how good he was at football.
Yeah.
It's as you get older, you find out more about these guys, and you go, wait the now. His big afro, or whatever you want to call it, there's nothing on his footballing ability. He was an absolute baller. And for him to be mentioned in that bracket, like the one that you've so well, pitched to us all, Maradona, just a joke of a footballer. And what's very interesting? Maradona absolutely refutes the claims that or the results of the test that came positive. He refutes them all. He refuted them all at the time. He actually offered FIFA the opportunity to review their situation, and all would be forgotten. People think that's power. That's him being just, no, he definitely was because of his other stuff. But at the same time, as Maradona says, I didn't need drugs to play football.
Yes,
the
that's
one thing
true.
I did not need was drugs to play football. Remember before, there was a lot of debate before the tournament whether he should be admitted into the country because of his previous charges over cocaine and things like that. Now, is it a case that they just didn't want him part of it? His face didn't fit, and he does that headbutt to the camera, and they go, look, there's a case you can make up.
Yeah.
Now, Maradona, for whatever reason, is either the narrative that we've all been told, or you go admitted any guilt. Said it was a wrong decision that was made, Phil. Have you ever considered that?
I think it's mentioned.
Or do you go by the superficial side of it? Like just seeing the images there, and you just join all that together and go, of course he was mad with it. Or Are you capable of taking a step back and listening to what he's got to say and going, oh wait, then I'll hear him out? Because he says it was a stitch-up.
Yeah, I think it's mentioned in the film that they did for him a couple of years ago. There you go. Says FIFA stitched him up. Aye, it's definitely mentioned in that one. The Maradona film that was concentrating mostly on his time with Napoli. But yeah, I'm sure it talks about that at one point in it where I've heard the story before where you're right. There was a whole thing about, will they let him into the country? But in fact, there's a wee documentary as well that BBC quickly put together once he'd been kicked out of the tournament, which is on YouTube as well. And I watched it as part of my homework, where it's just like,
yes,
yeah, there was questions coming in. But I mean, at the end of the day, why would you watch such one? Because he's easily one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player to ever play the game. And we will get on to talk about Maradona in a wee in greater depth because that is a talking point. Right. But there is one guy, though, in that list that I need to bring up. Because you talk about people who've got football heroes, and you ask most Celtic fans, they're going to say Henrik is their footballing hero, right? So mine's is a bit different, right? Mine's is because my Celtic hero would be Henrik, yes. If you ask me who my Celtic footballing hero is, obviously, because he's the greatest player I've ever watched play for Celtic, right? But see, my footballing hero, the guy that I watched at this tournament that made me go, that's how to play this game. This guy makes it look easy. Roberto Baggio, as I've said before, you've seen whenever Russell brings up a comment of mine, I've always got the wee Baggio avatar. Absolutely incredible player. He was the defining player of this tournament. Yep. He's synonymous with this tournament. The ponytail, the hairstyle, it's called the divine ponytail. Actually, that is the way his nickname translates into English is the divine ponytail. Have you seen the Netflix biopic, Russell?
No.
It went up last year. I would suggest you give it a watch. It's not too bad at all, even though it's a Netflix exclusive film. The boy who plays Baggio in it is actually a real doppelganger for him, especially when it's older Baggio, when he's got the wee goatee and stuff like that. He looks very, very like him. But yeah, most of the story just concentrates on the 94 World Cup and his relationship with the Italian manager. Is it Sacchi? I believe it's Sacchi.
Arrigo Sacchi.
Arrigo Sacchi. Yeah, there's a falling out during the group stages because he didn't score a goal during the group stages. He didn't. He was awful. They lost to Ireland in the first game. They then scraped by Norway, but their goalkeeper gets sent off and Baggio gets subbed off by Sacchi to make way for bringing on a sub goalkeeper. Paliuca gets sent off. And then the third game they drew Mexico. They went through in third place in their group. But then in the second round, Roberto Baggio just decided... we talk about taking a game by the scruff of the neck, take a tournament by the scruff of the neck. He scored pretty much. He dragged Italy to that final. He scores 2 against Nigeria in the second round. He scores the winner against Spain in the quarterfinals. He scores 2 against Bulgaria, as Liam Greenlaw would appreciate to say it as Bulgaria. And then he gets to the final. He is the main man for Italy to lead the way, and it's a real shame that his tournament ends the way it does. It is we're missing that penalty, but it is unfortunately the defining image of the 94 World Cup. If it's not Maradona's psycho eyes running towards that camera, it's Baggio with the shoulders slumped, the hands on the hips. He's just missed the penalty. It unfortunately has become the defining image, sadly. But but for me, he is the guy that made me appreciate how good this game can be. So he will always be my footballing hero.
Yeah, I think he was the player of the tournament by a country mile, man. He was the one I remembered the most from it at the time as well, Phil. I've got to give you that. Yeah. It was the divine ponytail. He was everything, man. And I think you're right. I think Italy were average.
Yeah.
I don't mean, you look at the list of players, let's get something right.
Oh, aye.
I'm not saying they were average players, but they performed averagely as a team. He carried it, man. He carried it, got to final. Was there not a story or a rumour at the time he pulled his hamstring back before he took that penalty?
I don't even know if that was even... okay.
That came up at the time.
Okay.
He's mental. Apparently he'd done something. He wasn't 100% when he took the pen either.
Yeah.
And he checked out a wee bit, which was weird. But I think the final was... It was no fitting way for that final to be decided. Both teams have brought moments of magic, by the way, and we'll get to the Brazil side of that in a bit. But I generally think with Baggio, he was... I'll tell you a funny story. I loved him the same way as you did. You don't believe me, I think I'm just saying this, but I'm not.
No.
I used to buy... I had 2 when I worked at the pub. Well, when I owned the pub. 2 T-shirts. One was like Italian 90. Not as good a remake. It was a cotton T-shirt.
Yeah.
But then I had another one which had like a silhouette of Baggio. It was white. Silhouette of Baggio in the front. And on the back, the exact font you've got at your avatar, Baggio 10.
Yeah, Baggio 10.
Right, on the back. And my ex, Ballon Amber, a complete psychopath to be fair these days, but, well, maybe not these days, but she was then. I kind of like that though, you know what I mean? I remember throwing pint glasses at my head, man. Like, they were just smashing off like the wall behind me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, like 5 or 6 of them, eh?
Yeah.
Like, just, I didn't even know what happened. Just getting that mad evil eye. But she used to always go, Baggy! She would call me Baggy.
Baggy?
Because I'd be wearing that Baggio t-shirt, aye. I think she had a clue who Baggio was. But, aye, Amber, wherever you are, big shout out to you, hope you're well. But aye, that reminds me of like good times.
Yeah.
Like, wearing the Baggio clobber because he'd left an imprint, do you know what I mean? And like, my early football memories the same way as you. And yeah, just a really sad way for somebody who'd carried the hopes of a nation, an underperforming perhaps nation, and then for it to be him who becomes the vilified one, the villain. Just was a really unfair twist actually on Baggio. I always remember he came back to the 98 World Cup.
Yeah.
And was psyched. No ponytail, goatee, and I know we'll
yes.
do the 98 show.
Oh, we will.
He was psyched, man. You could tell he was...
Mate, honestly, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's what I was going to say next. I was really glad, right, Monty? I was really, really glad about how he 90. Because I say he was my guy, he was my go-to guy. This is my hero. And I say after the World Cup, and I was just wanting to consume all football. Football Italia was a go-to thing, and he never ever left Italy. He played in Italy the entire time, so I was getting exposure to him all the time. So I was always following his career. And the 98 World Cup when he was in the Italy squad, I was so happy for him. There's a game against Chile, which is a fucking incredible game, underrated at that World Cup, where he scores a penalty. He actually steps up to take a penalty, and it's like, oh shit, oh fuck, Baggio taking a penalty? Oh no, is it going to happen again? I was so delighted when he tucked it away, man. So delighted. So, but we will talk about the 98 World Cup at some point. That is a classic that needs to. So we'll definitely be mentioning him again. But yeah, that is my reasons why I love Baggio. But see that World Cup there, 94, so many amazing number 10s. Even ones like GG Okocha. GG Okocha was an absolute baller as well. Dennis Bergkamp, who I always say the best first touch in football. Honestly, I've never seen a guy who's so graceful with his first touch. Some of the stuff he does with that ball is
2021 then, man.
Insane. Inter Milan, he was playing before he signed for Arsenal. Oh, he scores a great goal. Well, he signed Dennis Bergkamp.
Oh, Bergkamp. I thought you were saying Okocha there.
Oh no, Okocha I did mention, but I says Dennis Bergkamp about like the best first touch in football for me. Like honestly, the way, but yeah, he was at Inter Milan at that point. And then he ended up at Arsenal. But insane player. But we'll move on to the next one, which we're going to talk about the underdogs at this too, because every World Cup, every Euros, whatever it is, there's always got to be underdogs. And this one's actually got, I would say, 4 teams, arguably, that, upset the odds. So we've got Bulgaria, Romania, Sweden, and the Republic of Ireland. We're taking all sorts of, scalps at this World Cup. Yep. Republic of Ireland have one of the most iconic ones where they beat Italy in their first game in New York. Amazingly, now, I'm pretty sure when the World Cup and Euros are getting arranged, the venues are all determined in advance before they draw the teams into which group. I'm convinced that they moved this because Italy v Ireland, and it happened to be played in New York or New Jersey. And I'm like, come on, the one city in the United States that's got the most Italian population and Irish population, and it's like New York. I was like, what are the chances? But yeah, in Giant Stadium, Ray Houghton scored a nice wee half volley, just sort of like clipping it over Pagliuca. And yeah, they end up beating Italy 1-0, who then obviously we go on to the final. Do you remember watching that one at all, Russell?
100%. I remember the goal. I remember it was at, so I watched that was early bells in the World Cup. Mm-hmm. In the latter stages, I watched on holiday in Guernsey. Mm-hmm. And it was mad because I keep talking about that. But obviously, there was only 4 of us in the family. Do you know what I mean? So he was the main character. Yeah. He was in well for a couple of days, and that meant we were kind of hotel room bound, unless me and mum and that would go out. But my wee brother was young then. Jonathan, who does the Monday Club, when he was young, so our hands are kind of full, and me and Dad were sort of in cahoots. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he was like, well, just like I'm ill, mate. I'm not well, and I don't know why. I think I just like got a bug, and it was like, right, Sam, we'll sit in the hotel room and just the football's on, man. Do you know what I mean? So that was amazing. But before we got to the holiday, I went on a tangent already. But before we went on that holiday, I was at my grand's when Italy beat Ireland. No, Ireland beat Italy.
Ireland beat Italy,
yep. It was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yep.
Like, it was huge, though.
Yeah.
Like, we were buzzing, eh? Like, me and Dad were actually buzzing, eh? Like, buzzing. And it felt like, at that time, I've got a team to support here.
Yeah, totally. The Celtic connection.
Like,
yep.
It gave you a team to support. I don't even know... Do you know what, though? I'd be lying if I said I was joining dots between Celtic and Ireland then. I'm not getting that at that point. I was too young to know. I'd be kidding myself on if I went, oh, you know, they just played in green and they were near to us and I liked them. That was it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, even now, it's still very much of that mindset. I support a team in green, white hoops. I like Ireland because they play in green. I'm not that fucking obsessed with all the tie-ins. At times I find I find it a wee bit like, you know, I've not even thought of all that. I'm just watching two teams playing football and I've picked the one I want to win forever. And that's it. Do you know what I mean? But memories of that game, huge upset, iconic celebration.
Yes.
Underdog comes through and Jack Charlton's a huge memory of mine.
Jack Charlton, yeah, what a character.
I just felt he was like, but again, I'm trying to, like, not looking at it reflectively, looking at it at the time, he just seemed ancient. Like, see, to me as a young kid, like, he was like the equivalent of a 100-year-old to me now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, and just so warm and friendly, like, he could have been everyone's grandpa.
Oh, God.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
He had that vibe.
There was the game they played against Mexico, the next game when John Aldridge is trying to come on as a sub, and the wee fourth official is no having it. Like, there's some mix-up, and Jack Charlton and John Aldridge are nearly square going with the wee fourth official. Like, what the fuck do you mean? You know, you try to get on as a sub, and he's like, no, you need to... It was something with shin guards or something like that. He was being really pedantic about something. But I can always remember that as well with the game against Mexico. But yeah, Ireland, they were outstanding. And the one thing I love going back and seeing the footage of that, and even the 1990 World Cup when they were doing all sorts of heroics, the amount of Celtic shots that you see in the crowd as well when it cuts to the fans celebrating. There's always somebody with that C.R. Smith on the front of their Celtic shot celebrating in the crowd. It's always really good to see the hoops getting represented at these World Cups.
It was very important as well that, you know, am I right in thinking C.R. Smith sponsored Celtic, then stopped and then sponsored them again?
Yes, they're right. They sponsored Rangers for a period in the 1980s.
No, I think they sponsored us both at the same time.
Both at the same time.
And then I think they stopped sponsoring us for a season or two.
People's Ford was our sponsor in the early 90s. It was a...
Do you know what's interesting about that? So my Rangers supporting mate sent me that retro Celtic. Well, I say my mate, my best pal in the world. He's a Rangers fan right now.
Yeah. And
he sent me a photo of the shirt the other day and he goes, do you want me to buy you this, mate, for your birthday and that, mate? My birthday's not for like fucking 6 months, mate. A wee bit early, like. But okay. But interesting fact was the shirt that said Peoples, the fourth Peoples on it, the only Celtic shirt ever to have red, white and blue.
Blue, yeah. It's the least selling Celtic shirt of all time for that very fact. Yeah.
You know, and it's like you think of stuff like that, eh?
I remember when Tottenham had a red sponsor on the front of their shirt in the early 2000s and there was a big uproar about that. Yep. The things like that, you know, sometimes you don't take into account. I remember when Celtic got Carling as a sponsor and they changed the little red, Carling writing, and then it's got like a Magic Film Bhoycie on the ball. Some tunes on.
Mate, I would go like even paler than what I am right now, man. Do you know what I mean? Just like, I'd be lying down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just like, Phil, just you do the show.
I'm
bad enough on like a couple of dark fruits, do you know what I mean? Let alone...
feed the bear or something else. But no, it's just he is the man. But no, I was just saying, like, Celtic had Carling as a sponsor. There's like a red part of the logo that we changed to green as well. So just wee things like that. Something you've got to think about. You know, you're going to put that on the shirt for the year. You know, But another couple of teams that I wanted to really highlight in the underdogs is Bulgaria and Romania had two very similar tournaments in terms of, what they did, the teams that they beat and so forth. And one thing that I look at them, and I know back then it's a bit different because you can't really compare the Scotland team, but look at Scotland's record in our lifetime, right? Bulgaria and Romania, that World Cup, they were decent teams, and both of them had a talisman each. Romania had Hagi, Bulgaria had Stoichkov, and then you look at like Wales at Euro 2016, who again were they were a decent team, but they had Gareth Bale, and they all got away to the semi-finals. And it's like, is that sometimes just all you need? Because Scotland don't seem to ever, in my lifetime, Scotland might have had an okay team at times, and right now this current Scotland team is decent, but it doesn't have that one talisman that can be like the go-to guy that can single-handedly win you a game. Is that literally like the sort of secret to like Bulgaria and Romania's success at this tournament, because they just had that one guy?
It's a fucking great talking point. That's just genius. It's just genius, because Scotland do have that player. He just plays in the wrong position. Do you know what I mean? Andy Robertson is of probably a more consistent top level player than Gareth Bale already, and Robertson's probably got another 5, 6, 7 years now at the top to ram, that narrative I've just suggested there even further down, further down the path. I believe that it's just so typical Scotland that two real one-off players arrive. The two one-offs we've been waiting on, they're both left backs. Not even the fact, like, even Scotland, like, even if the other one was a right back, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd go, right, fair enough. At least it's two, like, it's shite, but that they're not, like, they're none of these number 10s. These guys that can drag you like Gareth Bale, which is a great example. But at least it's a left and right back. No, we've got them competing. We've got to change systems and all that to accommodate them both. Yeah. I do think you've got a good insight there, though. I think teams have in the past been carried by one or two players. I am convinced that Wales team in 2016 was an inspired Gareth Bale. 100%. A lot of heart, maybe from the defence side. The boy
Ashley Williams,
And then Aaron Ramsey, top, mate. Top at that time.
No doubt about it.
Very good player. But Bale becomes superhuman.
He does.
Team. You take easy Dan Breen, legend, the best man. But have we ever had anyone like that? The closest we got was McFadden. And what happened with McFadden was completely unfair expectation put on a good footballer. Not elite. Not silly level footballer. We were desperate to have that talisman. And because he did things that were of the unexpected, such was that the pressure actually grew on him a bit.
It did.
It was unfair. And it was almost he was a victim of overachieving or over-zealous moments that really you've never seen in your life. The goal against France. Takes it from. But I remember the one against the Dutch when we beat them 1-0.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. The corner routine. Yep.
Just quality. And he just seemed to have that. I don't know if my mic just went up there. He seemed to have that knack. And if I'm honest, I think McFadden's as close as we've got. And if we're being real, he's a million miles off the examples you're actually.
Yeah, I mean, Scotland I said earlier on, like Stoichkov won the Ballon d'Or after the '94 World Cup. So it just shows you, like, as I say, you've got a decent team, but then you've got that one good guy. Exactly. Even Maradona '86 is a great example because the '86 Argentina team. I always use that as an example about Maradona. I say, well, name other players from the '86 World Cup team, and they were just a very okay Argentina team, but he made them an exceptional team. And say with Bulgaria, for instance, they've got a good team of decent workmen and that. They're a solid enough team, but Stoichkov was like next level. He was playing for Barcelona at that point, so he ended up winning the Ballon d'Or. Georgie Hagi, was he at Barcelona at that point? He went to Galatasaray after Barcelona.
May well have been. But again, it's an example like that, though. Like, go name the rest of the Romanian team.
Exactly, it's really hard, isn't it?
Defenders, mate. Petrescu.
Oh, Petrescu,
but not like that one Maverick.
Totally.
Look at even at club level, mate. look at club level that era. And this is maybe where football's changed slightly. And Wales are maybe more of a throwback, if you like, on the Bale reliance. Thank you. I think, like, Matt Letizia, Southampton.
Oh, yeah. It's a great one. Yeah, Letizia.
It's a good example, isn't it, at club
Brilliant.
level? It is. I'm not trying to be all clever here, but I think that is very similar to what the vibe Pato's alluding to there.
Yeah.
With his comment. I just call him Pato, like Pato Banton now, by the way.
Pato Banton?
Go on, tell me.
Baby come back, UB40.
What year?
19, it's either, I'm going to say it's 93 or 95. It's either side of 94, I think.
Oh, man. Let's find out. Go on, B94. B94. Go on.
Please, what a tune.
When did it come out? Oh.
Pato Banton. Wow.
Still not saying it. Where is it? I'm too excited now.
You are very excited, mate.
Oh, come on, Pato. B1994. Pato Banton. Why is it not? Oh, there we go. 1994! Get
Oh,
in there.
what a tune. Yes.
Yes!
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And Pato gets his own hit wrong. He says
Pato,
1995.
come on, man.
In 1994, Pato Banton achieved the #1 on the UK singles chart with a cover of the Equals Baby Come Back. Yes, Pato, mate.
Well
done, Pato. You're the man.
Now I will be able to, I'll see it's Pato Banton now as well every time you read out his name. That's what I'll hear as well, thanks to that one. But I remember that tune, absolutely epic. But the only other team that I was just going to focus on again was Sweden, because there's a weird one about Sweden where they seem to have like the most under the radar third place finish ever. Because because I looked at their group. So they had a group of Brazil, Russia, Cameroon, and they qualified from that. Then in the next round, they beat Saudi Arabia, then Romania before losing to Brazil. But I think it's a well-known fact that the saying goes, the worst game in world football is the third place playoff in the World Cup because no player wants to play in it. And it's just like Sweden, like in my lifetime, the only third place playoff I can ever remember, like getting a bit of hype, was when Korea played Turkey, the 2002 one. There was like a real buzz around that because it was two, like, Korea being a host nation. Either one of the host nations. But this one, like, nobody, like, people talk about Bulgaria and Romania more at this World Cup for who they beat. But I think it's because Sweden didn't beat a big scalp, didn't take a big scalp along the way. Because Bulgaria beat Germany, Bulgaria beat Argentina, Romania also beat Argentina, but Sweden beat Saudi Arabia and Romania in the knockout stages. So it goes really under the radar that they finished third, and it just feels like nobody ever really talks about it,
But you know what? What Sweden did was the job that was there in front of them.
That's it, totally.
And I think, I always go, and I know we'll get to this World Cup and it'll be one of the shows, but I was pissed off when Senegal put them out in 0-2.
Senegal, yes,
I remember that. It's not what the Swedes do. The Swedes are steady. See if you've got a cooking on, and they're slight favourites, you back the Swedes.
Yes.
You back them when they're slight favourites. See if it's a game they should win, they'll win it.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
They're just that type of team. They're so steady. Sweden's always been my favourite other country before Henrik. I'll tell you why. The year after the World Cup 94, talking about my holidays again, we went on holiday to Sweden. That was where, I don't know many families that went to Sweden. Bizarre. We stayed up north in Sweden, a place called Isaberg, in a log cabin. I played football with all the locals and that, and then there was an English family who played as well, and he pushed me. I was the youngest there, and he pushed me into one of the log cabins where I was young, and kind of grazed my head, and he got chucked away. The Swedish and the Danish folk. I went obviously home and a complete diva tantrum. I was 8 years old, you know what I mean? He's messed my hair up, so that was that. But the Danish and the Swedes, I'll never forget it. They were about 12, 13, knocked on our log cabin, obviously I'm staying with the folks and that, and brought me chocolate, biscuits and juice.
Oh, nice.
The next day they went, tell them to come out, and I refused to go out the next day. And then the next day, the Swedish guy comes up, Eric, and he knocks on the door again. He says, "Tell Russell to come out. It's me." And I went out the second time, and I just thought, these are the soundest, nicest. They're all speaking English to me, you know?
Yep.
And they're like, I was young, I was only 8 years old. They were just so sound.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, this is the best. I got a Sweden shirt on that holiday with Blomqvist on the back.
Blomqvist. Yeah.
Remember, he played with the cuffs over his hands for Gothenburg, which is when I went for the second week of my holiday, IFK. And he played with the cuffs over his hands, and they beat Man United 4-2.
I remember that
he destroyed them, mate.
Aye, then he got signed for them.
Well, he went to Milan first.
Milan.
Then went to Man United. But Blomqvist was like already my hero when he played for IFK, because I loved the fact he had his sleeves, like, I don't know why I liked it, but he was left-footed too, but he had the cuffs over his hands, and I was like, he's cool. And he put United to the sword. Like, they pumped them, mate, 4-2. Like, so Sweden, always the team I'll back at a tournament. Okay. Normally because Scotland don't make them. Sweden has always been. But even since then, like that 94 World Cup, I hadn't been to Sweden yet then, but I remember them in the semi against Bulgaria. They were there on merit as much as Bulgaria were. Bulgaria just had the bigger scalps. Sweden had got the job done, mate. That's the way I see it.
They did. No, you're right. It's just a pure under the radar one. If they'd beat a spectacular team along the way, I think it'd be more celebrated. But yeah, they just went about their job and got it done. Just had a really good team. Kenneth Anderson, Martin Dahlin, obviously Henrik we've talked about, Thomas Brolin as well. Remember Thomas Brolin? So yeah, they were an exceptional team, and underrated team, I would say, as well of that era. But going from good things, Russell, let's take a look at some of the dark moments of this World Cup. And there's a few. Now, we've spoken a wee bit about Maradona. We'll leave him to the end of this part because he is like the sort of main event to this one. But I don't know if you remember this one, but in a second round game between Brazil and the USA, remember Leonardo, who I think might be like the director of football at PSG nowadays, or he was the director of football. He has an absolute mad moment as he's getting hassled by one of the USA players out wide, the sideline. He just basically levels a guy with one of the hardest elbows I've ever seen. I mean, who's the referee that does the ref watch on Sky Sports News? Is it Dermot Gallagher? He basically said one time, a referee will know if a player's done it intentionally if they ball up their fist. See if they do it with an open hand and they've just thrown their arm back. You can, a bit of leads of it, see if you can see them actually do that and elbow them. And this guy, this striker, Ramos, he's just, the ball goes out for a throw-in and Leonardo just absolutely clocks him. And the thing that always stood out about me, and this is something that years later I learned because I was watching one of those top 100 World Cup moment shows, and one of those talking head type shows you get when it cuts to some random comedian that you've never heard of and they'll give some sort of soundbite. And they talked about Kevin Keegan's commentary on ITV where he's just like, him and Brian Moore are doing the commentary. And Kevin Keegan's not having it. He's like, nah, he's made the most of that for me, Brian. I'm not having that one at all.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and Brian Moore's like, Kevin, what are you talking about? He's absolutely clean about this elbow. But yeah, Kevin Keegan's just like, nah, not for me, Brian. No, I think he's made the most of that one there. But yeah, that was a standout one. I always remember that because Leonardo was obviously like quite a silky playmaker, so it does seem very out of place that he just has this absolute mad moment. I don't know if you remember it at all, Russell, with the red card.
Oh, I mean the elbow one, Leonardo. So when I watched it back this week, what I realised was that is the Leonardo who's just been sacked by Kylian Mbappe at PSG.
Oh, he has been sacked now, because I said I think he's a technical director at PSG, but he's gone now. Right, okay. Right.
Sacked by Mbappe, though.
Yeah.
That's the interesting takeaway, what I'm trying to suggest to you here. Mbappe has complete control of that football club now.
He does.
He has now picked his mate. Well, not his I don't mean like they went to school together, mate. But he's picked who he thinks should be the technical director, and PSG are going with it. They gave him £100 million signing on fee. 100 million to sign for 3 years. 100 million to sign for 3 years. It's insane. It's actually ruining football a wee bit to an extent. Yeah. But just so you know, that Leonardo has been sacked by a 22-year-old footballer. But big news! Regular viewer, Teresa Lyle photo.
Yes. All aboard the bus, Teresa. Welcome aboard. Come on, take a seat.
Thank you so much. We have another new member. The optional $1.99 option is there for you all. You don't need to take it up. We'll still be doing this for free either way.
Yep.
And what a laugh we've had so far. Phil, we will need to wrap up in the next sort of 15 minutes if I'm completely honest. And I don't I hate saying that. But
that's no worries. I'll just quickly go through the headlines. I see with the Maradona one, I've only got one question on it really. So one of the other headlines that did come up, and you'll probably remember this, I can remember it very, very vividly, was Andres Escobar, the Colombian defender. Incredibly, second name was Escobar. He scored an own goal against the USA, returned to Colombia a few days later. He was shot dead. I mean, that's heavy duty stuff. And again, I'm only just getting into football at this point, and I'm seeing these stories on the news. Although I think it did come out later that he might have been mixed up in some dodginess because it happened in a car park late at night. And it's like, what were you doing in a car park late at night? Yeah, so you can, yeah. Although the fact he scored an own goal, it's like that's bad timing because you can link it to that, but by the sounds of it there may have been more to it. But quickly, just on Maradona, we spoke about
just quickly, I'll say what I will say though is like our games at Boot the Root, right? I don't know if you ever played Boot the Root, Phil, right? It was like headers and volleys.
Okay.
But like if you conceded 5 goals, if you were the one in goal, like see if you put it over the bar, right? You play with football with your mates. See if you put the ball over the bar, you go straight in goal. See if you hit a shot wide, then the goalie gets to take a penalty into you, right? And if he scores it, then you're then in goals, right? And if you concede 5 goals, we all get to boot you in the arse, right?
Okay.
All I'm saying, man, right, is see after Escobar got shot, standards raised at Boot the Root, right? We were all like, whoa, I'm only playing to not get kicked in the arse here. Everyone check your pockets, you know what I mean? What's happening? But scary.
It's scary, I know.
Scary.
I know.
Tattoo face 77.
Another one.
This is so cool. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. You know, you have no idea. Thank you, mate. Anyway, that's so sound. Thank you very much. But in fairness, it kind of does. It paints a scary picture, mate. Is this a footballing thing? And if it is a footballing thing,
that's
terrifying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. You're going, well, maybe they were in that situation because of other untoward things going on, but that's pure speculation. The facts we've got in front of us are scores OG for his country, shot within days.
Yeah. It doesn't paint a nice picture at all. It really doesn't.
It's actually terrifying, that. Yeah. Terrifying, because that's not football.
Yeah. It's not honestly. I'm only like, I can remember it being a news story. I was only 8 years old at that point. I can remember that very vividly. The whole story about it was on News at 10 with Trevor McDonald about this player that returned to Colombia after they got eliminated, and because he scored the OG that got them eliminated. Yeah, shot dead. Bonkers. But earlier on, we alluded to Diego. I say we'll try and keep it really short. That's one we've talked about.
Don't rush, mate. I just was because.
No, I know. I knew it was going to go long. I knew it was going to go long.
I've got to be conscious of it because I don't live on my own, mate. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't want you rushing either. It's all good. I shouldn't have said anything. It's cool. We'll get there.
Well, basically, we've talked a bit about the drugs ban earlier on, and if it was, there was obviously his side of the story is they maybe stitched them up and so forth, right? But yeah, I can remember the vivid celebration. I mean, it's a good goal he scores. That's something that you actually forget. The goal is incredible against Greece. A nice wee 1-2 play with him, and I think Batistuta are just like, 1-2, and then he just takes a step to the side, left peg right in the top corner, and obviously he runs to the camera, absolutely out of it. Yep, headbutts it. They go and play Nigeria.
I've been waiting to do that all night.
Play Nigeria in the next game, and then it's after that he fails the drugs test, and essentially that sort of it ended an international career. Cheers, Chris. Thank you very much. I say I'm sorry we're going so long, but I knew this was going to happen.
Just get it out your head. Get it out your head. Get it out your head. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that.
But yeah, essentially ends the international career because he doesn't play for Argentina again after this. He does go on and play more club football, goes back to Argentina, plays for Boca. But here's my question to you. Maradona, the best ever to play the game in your mind? Or do you give it to somebody else? Is he the best?
I think what's not here is like Pele's obviously got the made-up goals.
Well, that's true, yes.
Right, and he's like including stuff that you're going, oh, shut up, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like me including like playing with a tango. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean a can of tango. Like, remember the old tango?
The Adidas tango, yeah.
The flyaways, man. Like against my mate when I was 8 years old and going, well, we're racking them up now, big boy. You know what I mean? That's counting. That counts. That counts. I think there's a bit of naughtiness in there. Diego Maradona, to me, was capable of doing league seasons, not on his own, but on his own, right? Yeah. Serie A, as you say, the hottest place to be. Why was it the hottest place to be in the 90s? Why?
Because all the best players.
Why? No, it became all the best players wanted to go because he
Diego
made it that, in my opinion.
Yep.
He goes to the World Cup '94. He doesn't even have a club.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He doesn't have a club, mate.
Yeah, that's right. He just came back for a drugs ban. Yep.
He played for a club for 2 years.
Yep.
Watch me go, and that left foot colour into that top bin. Yep. It's outstanding work. Outstanding. I just think that guys like him are shambles. People talking about the modern day, the players are better coached now. You know, they're better footballers. Go give £100 million boy Jack Grealish a golf ball right now and ask him to keep it up, he'll do.
Yeah, you're right. Maradona was unbelievable at that. Right. Even when he was obviously older and out of shape, he came over and played in that Soccer Aid charity game. And I remember he was out warming up and he did that trick that he does where he basically kicks it way up high in the air and the ball comes right back down and he just basically meets it on the volley every time and just volleys it right back up, comes down, and he would go and meet it every time. And this is when he was very, very bloated and out of shape. And it's just like, that you don't lose it. You just don't lose it. But for me, he is the best ever, I say. Because I look at what he done with this, as I say, this shirt I'm wearing tonight, this Napoli shirt. Like, Napoli,
I love that shirt,
Napoli had never won Serie A before he joined, and they've never won it since. They won Serie A twice. They won the Coppa Italia, and they won the UEFA Cup during his time there. He's a hero. I mean, there is murals all over Naples dedicated to this guy. He's like an honorary Italian because of what he did with that club. And earlier on, the comment came up about like Maradona 86, and I'm like, that's one of the things that I used to say, like, he is above the likes of Messi and Ronaldo. It's like, name that World Cup Argentina won team, name somebody in that team other than Maradona, and you would really struggle. I think there was a striker named Valdano. I think that's as far as I could get because Passarella had retired at that point. Ozzy Ardiles wasn't in the team, so I don't know any other Argentinians. But Maradona, he is unbelievable in this. You just go back and watch any of his YouTube compilations. I was so sad when he passed away a year ago, and it was like, man, because see that World Cup when he was manager of Argentina, was it 2010? I loved it. I loved that he was like their manager. I wanted him to do so well. I was, oh man, I'll be Messi next week. Aye, true. Good pun there. Good pun.
I mean, Monty comes in with a really valuable point here because I think you think of great dribblers. Yeah. And you do think of the two Argentinian boys and how they've obviously got Paddy McCourt posters on the wall.
Of course, yes. There's the Photoshop with Messi one.
Paddy McCourt was a magnet when he dribbled with a ball. Have you ever seen his goal, not a competitive one, against St. Pauli?
Yes, I have seen it, when he...
Yeah. That shambles, mate, how good that is. Like, how's he doing that? He was I think he was one of those I know he wasn't as good as Maradona before this becomes a wee meme. But what I will say is McCourt was inspired by the likes of Maradona. I think there is no two ways about that. Yeah. Celtic the Hill comes in all the way from Australia. He loved watching Maradona at Napoli. And Tattoo Face, mate, thank you so much.
He's even got it in Argentina blue. Look at the colour that's came up in. That's Argentina sky blue, Napoli sky blue.
Oh, thank you so much for the £2 donation, mate. You didn't need to do that, Tattoo Face. Being a member is always more than enough to be in the Bhoycie Bus, but still much appreciated as well. We are having a great time. What is up next, Phil?
You're going to love this. What's your favourite game and goal from the tournament, Russell? I know what yours is already, but go for it, mate.
Mental, mate, because, see when I say the World Cup, 94 was what I got into football because of. I then need to dig a wee bit deeper. Yes, I was invested in the tournament prior to this game to an extent. Then this game changes it all. And Dennis Bergkamp scores that goal that I think he's scored a few times. I think he scored it at Filbert Street against a certain Get the
Matt
clacks
Elliott.
in. No.
The defender was Matt Elliott, though. He rinsed
Yeah,
him,
but-
remember? But Martin O'Neill. Martin
Fuck
O'Neill,
Matt
yeah.
Elliott. Martin
Aye.
O'Neill's Leicester City. That opening of the boot. That pass
Love it.
midway, mid-height into the far side netting of
Yep.
or inside netting of the goal.
Yep.
I'd seen that goal after that World Cup, and when he did that at Filbert Street, I thought, that's taking me back to my favourite, the game that gave me the bug.
Yeah.
And I've got to be honest, man, that 3-2 game, I was gutted. I wanted Holland to win. I did. And I know now, orange and all that shit. Let's just go back.
Yeah.
I was 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
Not really interested in King Billy and all that shite. You know what I mean? Like, I just seen a team in orange. I preferred the team in, I think they were in blue, weren't they?
Brazil wore blue for that game, yeah,
Aye.
and Holland wore the white with orange shorts that game, both in their away kits.
Well said, Monty, mate. I mean, we're talking about America right now. And obviously, you know, it's remiss not to say, like, the absolute tragedy that happened last night. It's just, words fail me sometimes, Phil. Words fail me. And you know what? Words don't seem to do enough either.
No, they don't.
They don't seem to do enough either. Hopefully, we will see something. If anyone is, after the show, looking for 3 minutes of a very good sporting interview, Steve Kerr.
I saw it. Golden State
drink-
Warriors manager.
Just type in Steve Kerr press conference.
Yep.
And, real passion, really powerful and excellent to watch. I'm not going to go any further on that, but I just think Monty was right to bring that up.
Yeah, totally.
But yes, 3-2, mate.
Yeah, because Brazil were 2-0 up, and then Bergkamp and Aaron Winter scored for Holland. And then the winner, mate, by Branco, an absolute thunder bastard of a free kick with his left foot.
Longest run-up ever, man.
Longest
run-up
ever. Out. Aye.
Joe, it's mad. See again. You see you see how this works, right? Branco's doing that. Bobby Carlos.
Does it? Aye.
He's watching, learning.
Yeah.
You can't see those similar traits. That run-up at Le Tournoi, only... Le Tournoi, what was that, 1997?
Le Tournoi was 1997, the year before the World Cup in 98. I scored that ridiculous free kick.
Look at the run-up.
Oh, yeah. It's Branco.
He's took it from him, mate. And I don't mind that. And I think Tattoo Face and Kaiser, HTTC, have nailed it.
A thunder
bastard of a free kick.
Yes, absolute. Puts his laces right through it. And the thing is, he played for Middlesbrough. Remember that Middlesbrough team that had Ravanelli, Emerson, and Juninho? They also had Branco as well at that point, but I think he was definitely the end of his career. But that free kick was ridiculous of all proportions. By Holland, they just got themselves back into the game, then conceded that goal just shortly after.
And of course, that game was famed for the Bebeto.
The baby celebration, the cradle. Yes,
that is. I'm sorry, that's iconic.
That's iconic.
It's an iconic celebration. It's been replicated again so many times since. I don't know if it had happened prior. Certainly the first time of my knowledge. Now, in the modern era, it's all that and
yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit tragic about that.
And what's your favourite goal, Russell, from the tournament?
Maradona's for me, 100%.
Maradona, yeah.
I look back at that, and do you know what? I see a king retire. I love this in sport, by the way. Veterans doing well. Like, veterans showing them how it's done. Veterans proving eras don't exist.
Yeah.
When people say it's unfair to compare era to era, you then go, well, there's actually always a crossover period at some point. And it's how well they did then. Right? And you can see it, Maradona, everyone thinks has had his time. 94 World Cup, there's a list of number 10s you so perfectly articulated earlier, Phil, and listed out to us and read off like a hymn sheet of number 10s. Maradona at 33 was the oldest out of them all.
Yep.
He was still the best. And he showed it. And he just knew he went, fucking Baggio, etc. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Just give me the ball.
Yeah.
Watch me go.
Watch me.
And I think that goal has a lot of importance. And as I say, I'm very open-minded on alternative angles on things, Phil. I don't close my mind. I've never been one to fall for everything the MSM say. And that doesn't mean I try to contradict it all the time either. Just be open-minded.
Yeah.
The guy is denied.
Mm.
He is denied what he was chucked at that tournament for from day one.
Yep.
There was a hell of a lot of resistance to him getting in the tournament for day one.
Yep.
Also, he loved a patsy. So who knows?
Yes, he did. He was quite partial to it. But my favourite game and goal have a bit of a connection because, again, I was talking about the underdogs. My favourite game from that tournament is Romania beating Argentina 3-2, and this is just after Maradona's been sadly thrown out. So Argentina are a bit of a shipwreck. You know, they're a boat without their captain. You know, they're going into this game, Romania underdogs are probably thinking, we just turn up and we'll beat them. And every single goal Romania scored in this game is absolutely top quality. Dimitrescu scores a free kick from out wide, where, you know, he's on Argentina's right, Romania's left, and he bends it right in the top corner. And I think he means it. Alan Thompson-esque, yep. And then the second goal is Dimitrescu again, but Georgie Hagi plays one of the nicest little flicked through passes you'll ever see. See your tattoo face. And yeah, Hagi's out wide and he just flicks it through just to sort of be outside of the foot, right into Dimitrescu's path, and again just opens the foot up and just slides it into the net, no problem at all. And then the third goal is a bit like one we talked about a few weeks ago with the Celtic and Hearts games. We were talking about Petrov's one at Tynecastle, where he smashed into the roof of the net. It's just a great ball through to Georgie Hagi. He runs on it and absolutely bottles it right into the top of the net. And again, it's just like they end up knocking Argentina out of the tournament. And yeah, and also my favourite goal comes from Georgie Hagi as well, because against Colombia in the group stages, he's out wide. And it's one of those ones where you see it at first, you think, did he mean to cross that and it's went in? No. When you watch it again from out wide left, he properly puts his laces through it. He looks up and he sees the keeper and he actually shoots here, puts his left foot right through it, and it goes like a rocket right into like the postage stamp. They even show a view from behind the goal where you can see the ball is like inches away from the crossbar and the post, that exact ideal spot you want it to land in. Is an insane goal against Colombia during the group stages. So yeah, Romania are all over my favourite game and favourite goal, but yeah, Georgie Hagi, absolute baller, mate.
Scary.
Yeah,
scary, mate.
His son's got a long way to go, put it that way.
Come on, he's one of the best players ever, man. You know, if he'd been playing in the final, he'd have won it.
I know. Speaking of final, there you go, what a link. Yeah, so the actual final itself, the final talking point of the night is the final. Was it a great spectacle? But then again, what World Cup final have you watched that was actually really good? It's going to be a cagey affair. It's going to be a cagey one because it's the final of the biggest game in football. Brazil 0, Italy 0. The things that I remember from this game, and I vividly remember watching this as a child, is the shot that Pagliuca spills. It hits the post and he grabs it back in his hands and he actually kisses the post, like gives it a wee kiss. He's like, Thank you for saving me. And then later, I think in extra time, when Mario misses an absolute sitter, the ball gets driven across the goal.
That's right.
And yeah, funny, I think Maldini was on the line, so he might have blocked it, but yeah, he puts it past the post. And then we go to the penalty shootout, mate. The penalty shootout held around the world, still talked about to this day. One thing that's forgotten, though, is Franco Baresi misses a penalty in the exact same fashion that Roberto Baggio missed one. First penalty of the night, skies it over the bar. And then it was Massaro missed one for Italy. And then, of course, the infamous one, Roberto Baggio comes up and balloons it over the bar, sadly.
Gutting that. But do you know what? Yeah. I think there's a real comparison for Baggio. Baggio drags Italy to that final. He is the maverick. He's the icon. He's the poster boy. He is the talisman. Mm-hmm. Same thing happened 4 years later, let's be honest.
So it did. Yeah, there's a bit of football symmetry there. Ronaldo, R9.
Who, as we know, interesting fact about the final, Phil, go for it.
I said it the other day and I found out the answer to this one. He's the only player in the Brazil squad that gave away his World Cup winning shot, even though he didn't get on as a player on the day. He stayed as an unused sub. But it turns out the Italy player he swapped it with was Pierluigi Casaraghi, who would go on to play for Chelsea and have a career-threatening injury at Anfield. Basically, that was it. He went through one-on-one and got done, and he had knee ligaments.
He was on fire when he joined them.
He was on fire when he joined Chelsea, he was. But it's Casaraghi that he swapped the shot with. But yeah, Ronaldo, young, I say 19-year-old maybe at that point, he's going to become a superstar.
1976. Yeah. 1976, mate, so he was 18.
18. And
I think he was 17. I think he's 18 in September 76.
Wow. And
I'm guessing now, though.
Yeah. And he's the only Brazil player that goes around. The Italy players want to swap a shot, so he gave away his World Cup winning shot to Pierluigi Casaraghi. But yeah, it was the 5 teams playing handball.
I would love to set one up. Fine. Well,
cheers, Gary.
We'll play that derby at some point. You know what I mean? I would love that. Fucking me against that wee prick at fucking the centre of the park. I would love that, man. Honestly, he'd piss his shots, man. You know what I mean?
So the final question, though, about the World Cup, were Brazil the worthy winners in the end? Because I've seen plays and videos over the years and blogs and that. This Brazil side in Brazil are not well renowned, even though Bebeto and Romario were unbelievable as a forward line, very, very exciting. They're deemed a very sort of defensive-minded one. So I don't know. How do you feel? Think Brazil were the worthy winners in the end?
Yeah, I don't think people win World Cups unless they deserve it, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah.
I think penalty shootouts are, as I say, they can feel like an unfair way to win a final at the end of the day. But again, you've both came through that tournament together. You both went to the ringer. And then it is about who's got that last 12th round in them. Who's got, let's tie it all back in, who's got that last 12th round in them? Who's got that last deciding frame ball off the black into the pocket in them, mate?
Yeah.
And see, when you tie it in, that's what it comes down to. You're either Jimmy White or you're Stephen Hendry. That's a ball off the black is on its spot. The football is on the penalty spot. Yeah. You don't miss them 99 times out of 100, mate. But the one time you do, it's when the pressure's been cranked. Yeah. And the rightful victor will out. And sadly, because I would rather Italy won, sadly, that was Brazil. Did they deserve it? For me, yes. Yeah.
And that would be Brazil's 4th World Cup out of the 5 they've won now. They would win another one in 2002. But yeah, that was the 1994 World Cup and our memories from it. Now, before we quickly finish, I set a trivia question way back about 12 hours ago when we started this show. We won't dwell on too long, but there was only 3 answers. And the question was, there are 3 players who have lifted the World Cup and European Cup or Champions League, whatever model you want to call it, as the captain. Who are the 3 players, World Cup and Champions League winning captains?
World Cup and Champions League winning captains.
Yeah, or it could be the European Cup. It can be.
So they were captain of both.
They were the captain on the night that they lifted the trophy.
Cup, and they were captain on the night at the World Cup.
Yes.
Distributed Cannavaro?
No.
Maldini?
No.
No, yeah, we're fucking on it. Let's just be quick here, come on. Xavi?
No.
Close, I'm close.
You're very close. You can tell by my tone of voice there that you're close. You've hit the post. You've hit the post.
Spanish. He's Spanish. The big defender with the big hair. Let's see. No.
It's not Puyol. He wasn't the captain of Spain in 2010. This one surprised me as well because I totally forgot that this guy was the captain.
Raul?
It's not Raul.
What?
It's not. I know. It's a surprise one. This is probably the hardest one.
You are doing it again, man. He's doing it again.
I'm not.
He is. Right, okay, we'll move on for that. We'll come back to that one.
We'll come back to the Spanish one. Yep.
Right, we'll come back to that. So there's 2 others. 2 others, World Cup winners. And that also lifted the Champions League as captain. Oh, I like this. I like it. I like it.
I'm going to do this on every show we do. I'm going to start the show with some trivia.
Brown Warriors nailed it.
Iker Casillas was the Spanish captain in 2010 and Real Madrid's captain in 2014.
I can see it.
Because I knew that Puyol and Sergio Ramos would probably come up because they were captains of Barcelona and Real Madrid, but no, it was Casillas that captained Real Madrid in 2014 and it was a captain of the World Cup in 2010, so Casillas is correct.
What's the two other eras?
The two other eras, one is the 90s and one is the 70s.
Right, okay, 90s, that does help. Mateus?
No.
Beckenbauer?
Yes, Franz Beckenbauer, 1974 World Cup and Bayern Munich, multiple European Cups in the 70s. So Beckenbauer's a easy one.
They're saying Deschamps in the comments.
Deschamps is correct. Deschamps is correct. He was a captain of Marseille, 1993 Champions League.
You are so rotten. You are the worst.
And in the 98 World Cup, Laurent Blanc was the France captain, but he gets sent off against Croatia in the semi-final, and Didier Deschamps wore the armband that night. So Didier Deschamps lifted the World Cup as captain that night and the Champions League in 93. Genius edition questions. But there you go. That is a World Cup 94 show. Probably for the next one, we'll try and trim it down a wee bit. I knew the first one, it's the pilot episode.
Don't worry.
It was, we're throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Phil, I think you should be just beaming with pride, mate. You've done an amazing job tonight. You've driven the bus for longer than I've ever driven it on one journey.
I have. Oh my God.
2 hours 45, mate. You're right. I don't think that's sustainable. But what I will say is the content was brilliant. The knowledge is unrivaled. The banter was brilliant. The viewers have hung around. I've had a great time.
How many are we on for the end of the show?
Hundreds, mate. No, don't worry about it. Over 50.
Okay, that's fine.
But mate, people have hung around for the full time, mate. You should be proud. And I think everyone knows we've got a force to be reckoned with in Mr. McGinlay. Anything you'd like to add before we go?
I'm going to put one more question to you, Russell. For the next show, you can pick what tournament we do. So, Mr. Bhoycie, what tournament would you like to do for the next one?
Yeah, right, that's sound. I think we just go straight into Euro 96.
Oh, right, let's go. Euro 96, mate, let's go.
Let's do Euro 96. It won't be this time next week, because we're going to do a first ever post-match push for a Scotland game, aren't we? I mean, no, it's not everyone's priority as a Celtic fan, but we've got to keep up trying to do stuff through the summer. And of course, I'm quite passionate about the Scottish team, quite passionate. And we'll do a bit of that, man.
Cheers to these all.
A bit of that. Oh, mate, I'm not even bringing up the rest because they're all loving you, mate. They're all fucking loving you.
Thanks.
You'll not fit out the room, man, honestly.
I think we need to put a timestamp in the description just saying the actual World Cup chart starts at this time on the video. Just but if you want to watch the whole thing back again, then feel free, but we'll trim it down a wee bit for the next one, don't worry.
But everyone's enjoyed it, mate. Everyone's enjoyed it.
Good, I'm glad
we will see you all later. Thanks again.
See you after.
Cheers, Phil.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.